Chapter 434, John versus Darius 1. Fair ladies and noble gents, greetings and salutations. Today is the day, and I see that everyone came early, haha. Today's fight was hastily arranged, but rumors have it that each part of the imperial city was talking about the fight last night. Everyone is surely excited, but let me remind you again of who we're going to fight this afternoon. They're no ordinary fighters or your everyday riffraffs. They are basically the strongest two in the arena. The grand champion of the arena and the terrifying runner-up. Introducing the grand champion, Darius. You all know him as the Hound of Niben, who hunts anything from goblins to ogres and chases the bandits all across Niben Banks. Awarded by the Legion for his efforts and bravery. Cheers! But today a young man from Skyrim stands against him, and make no mistake, this young man is one of a kind. Introducing the challenger over the Grand Champion title, John Dare. The people yesterday called him the Thunder Voice and the Nord Goliath, and that can't be too far from the truth. In Skyrim, he is Jonhild Firemane, the Thane and Liberator of Winterhold. It is said that he ended the pirate threat over the northern coasts and led a campaign of rebuilding the ruined city of Winterhold and the ancient ruins of Sarthal, the first city of mankind on Tamriel. Not just that, his most recent feats include a survival battle against the Madmen of the Reach, a daring clash with a vampire order, and the Battle of Winterhold, where he is said to have defeated a force of 15,000 by a force of 5,000 warriors. Cheers! The incredible feats of John Dare were indeed as humongous as the announcer declared. Last night, the arena master sent the announcer to the Legion office in the city and acquired all the public information about John Dare. Even though the Legion was reluctant in giving John some credit, rumors were already too hard to suppress at this stage. Still, comparing Darius and John was a bit too much. Darius was a bandit and a monster hunter around the Niben Banks, known for chasing his enemies on his blood chariot, while John is a known young hero in Skyrim. But that doesn't mean that John is stronger than Darius. By all accounts, Darius is a monster among monsters. In two private waiting room in the Bloodworks, both warriors were preparing for a bloody battle. Darius may have looked down on John at first, but the so-called Nordic Goliath proved to be a scary foe despite his young age. John has spent a good time acquiring information about Darius too and estimated his opponent's level and techniques. Entering a fight on such a scale blindly will be disadvantageous, especially if it is a grand champion fight. One thing for certain, and that is the match is a free fight bound by no rules, which means John can go with whatever armor he wanted, and in this case, the Ebony Mail was a very good choice. It will be hard to identify the Ebony Mail as the Daedric artifact. It is because of its appearance not being really that unique, and surely other ebony armor share the same appearance with it. For a weapon, John is all out with the Ebony Blade, adding a small tweak to it. Adding Ozadil's set to that as the Helm of Vision, Evil Fists, Boots of the Apostle, and Ring of Necromancy, as well as the Elder Staff Pride and the Shadow Ether Greed. In his waiting room, John sat alone, putting his mind to ease and thinking of various strategies and emergency situations. His mood generated a powerful killing intent that made anyone who wanted to try any underhanded method against him back off. A few minutes later, he heard a loud cheer from the arena, which meant that his opponent has already appeared up there. The door on his room was knocked on, and a voice came from behind it. "Your turn." John silently walked up from his place across the Bloodworks, all the way through the tunnel in front of the gate where he will enter the arena. What he saw in there made him grin. Sure as hell, it was the black-haired Imperial man with the strong appearance of a soldier carrying a gigantic axe and riding a war chariot pulled by two horses. The chariot ran around the arena in two circles as the grand champion greeted the public, and they fervently cheered for him. John sighed and took a deep and painful breath before he calls out his horse Jurgen from the cube. The horse seemed to be not in the mood, but it calmed down as soon as John patted it. "Come, we're having a big fight now, buddy." John jumped on the horse and took out the Ebony Blade. Concerned about its unique appearance, John called out for Greed. "Do your thing." And by that, Greed possessed the Ebony Blade, forming its second appearance, something no one knew about or can suspect as the most infamous Daedric artifact in the world. As Darius settled down with his side of the crowd, Jon's gate opened, and out of nowhere, his crimson tyrant aura flowed like a flood and caused a great unrest to the spectators. Even the horses pulling the chariot Darius on became wild, and it took Darius to release his carnage aura to block Jon's. From the gate, a black horseman rode out on a black horse, causing an astonishing amount of pressure. In his right hand, there was a large black weapon. Is that a spear? No, it looks like a halberd. It is a glaive. The third guess wasn't entirely wrong, but the fourth guess settled it. An Akaviri dragon glaive. An enchanter said. Just like what was said, it was a dragon glaive with a serpentine design on its wide blade. Jon knew this kind of polearms as the guandao. Basically, a guandao is Chinese, but I wasn't sure if Akavir is mostly Asian or just Japanese. Judging by the names, I hope the Kopatun, tiger folk, are the Chinese or at least the Tangamo, monkey folk. Equals 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 equals. The ebony glaive, Daedric artifact. Awakening, 5 out of 10. Absorb vitality. Fortifies swordsmanship, fortifies spearmanship. Elongation. Equals 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 equals. The jet black guandao in his hand carried a lot of details from its former self, the ebony blade. It had a shaft similar to the grip of the Nodachi, and the blade guard was also the same. Jon held the ebony glaive from the neck of its shaft as he settled the warhorse he is on. So you came. Darius spoke. So I did. Jon replied. Scared? Won't run to your mother? They would beat the crap out of me if I did. I have 2 of them, not bragging. TSK. That nasty face of yours. I'll make sure I carve on it with my axe. Darius said, giving Jon a twisted smile. Dude, if you're going to stand there and trash talk, then spare me the boredom and come kill me already. Jon said with clear disdain. Huh, your funeral, Nord bastard. Racist fucker. The two were already at it, trash-talking and spewing nonsense to their heart content. Only when Jon started using his spam arsenal that was kept rusty from the last online game he played in his past life did Darius lose it and finally commence the attack. The war chariot ran to the side while being pulled by 2 horses as it can't run to the middle of the arena, which was made by metal bars. Darius put his axe on the chariot and took out a bow. Seriously? Run, Jurgen. Jon didn't want to be a still target and ran to the other side, circling around the arena as well. A chariot pulled by 2 horses chased a horseman in circles. The chariot is clearly faster than a single horse as it was pulled by 2, but Jurgen's speed was buffed by Jon. It would be a problem if Jurgen became used to the buff and harmed itself, but Jon maintained a good mental connection with the horse using his Titan-born bloodline ability. During those laps around the arena, Jon and Darius exchanged a large number of arrows and spells. At first, Jon was defending, but when the gap widened, Jon started to put traps on Darius's way. A horse wouldn't tell if it was a magical trap or not, so Darius got the scare from Jon's slime move and was forced to maintain a moderate speed to dispel Jon's magic before his horses pass. Ha ha! You became slow, uncle. Seriously, is that all? Jon started a provocation. You little shit. Darius was aggroed by Jon and decided to ward his horses while running through the traps anyway. Jon's traps were not elemental as he expected, but rather varied between spells that scared the horses with visual effects or spells that made the land slippery. Still, the chariot's charge was swift and managed to get rid of most of the traps. At that time, Jon and Darius decided to get things more serious. Jon took a sharp turn and made Jurgen jump over the center of the arena, while secretly boosting the jump by Ozidal's boots of the Apostle. In a mere few seconds, Jon now became the one chasing Darius. Darius's arrows rained on Jon from the left side and the front, but merely waving the guandao with one hand was enough to block those arrows. Not long later, Darius decided to slow down and engage with Jon on a mounted melee. He carried his large axe with one hand and directed the chariot to tighten the road on John, but a spell from John's right hand was timely enough to throw off the balance of Darius's chariot, forcing the road open. The high-speed fight now took a whole new level of excitement, and the crowd was not settling down at all, as half were the loyal fans of Darius, and the other was John's. Once the two warriors engaged in real combat while maintaining the high speed, something big was fated to happen. John thrust the guandao at Darius, and the latter easily redirected it with his axe's shaft, then waved its head towards Jurgen's neck. Fucker! John was infuriated and stopped the attack by the glaive handle, then rotated it to attack the head of Darius. The latter took the attack with his vambraces that quite strong and stabbed with the axe's pointy end at John. John was taken off guard for a second, but managed to throw his body to the back and rotated it around Jurgen's torso to perform an artistic combo on Darius. John was no longer riding the way riders do, but his gymnastics and acrobatics were awakened in an instant and moved as if he was dancing on the saddle. Die, you northern monkey. Darius was irritated by John's constant movement. We don't have monkeys in Skyrim. John double-kicked Darius's hand, an axe making him lose balance. For an attempt to force John down, Darius engaged with his axe closely and tightened the road on John. The two exchanged a couple of weapon attacks until they were locked in a weapon circlings. Darius managed to overpower John in a moment of foothold assurance and carried John from his horse by the axe, tossing him as strong as he could to throw him in front of the chariot and run over him. John was indeed thrown against his will, but it wasn't a problem for him to move midair. Darius was strong enough to force John on such a situation. The moment he was flying forward, John adjusted his trajectory using Ozidal's boots of the Apostle and spread his arms around, releasing the two magic sealing chains from Ozidal's evil fists. One chain to the right holding on the arena's wall, and another chain to the left holding on one of the four pillars in the middle of the arena. By the next second, Darius's blood chariot ran into the chains. Clash. R.A.K. The blood chariot was fully tackled in the chains, and the horses were crushed under the chariot. Darius was launched into the air like an idiot and barely adjusted himself to land on Jurgen's saddle. Angry Jurgen neighed. With no further ado, the stubborn stallion rejected the new rider with its full strength and hit the brakes. Shit! Run! Darius wasn't taking no for an answer and thought of harming Jurgen, but he felt movement behind him. John retrieved the chains and jumped mid-air with the guandao being aimed at Darius from behind. Darius tried to take his axe from his side and swung it at John behind him, only to see no one there. From the sides, the crowd saw John performing air steps, running from behind Darius to his left side soundlessly and waving the glaive from the front. Get off Jurgen, you dirty fuck! Darius barely turned around to see the guandao being waved at him. He couldn't understand how John sneaked on him like that, but it was no time to think. He barely guarded his face, but the attack carried him off Jurgen. As he fell and quickly regained his stance, John quickly took Jurgen back into the ring. Darius looked back at his chariot and horses, then his eyes turned bloodshot. Fucker, you'll pay. Make me. The first round on horseback was over. Now the real fight begins. P4 Tray 0N. Goal. +4 extra. Next. +5 extra. Patreon. com/eldokmeezy. Remove. PayPal. +$10 equals extra. PayPal. me/eldokmeezy. Extras by votes. 5,000/8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. Chapter 435. John versus Darius 2. Darius looked at John with furious expressions. This Nord was a very tricky opponent. John kept a cool head and took a stance waiting for Darius to come first. He wouldn't want to be countered this early on now that they are confronting one another in melee. Darius tightened his grip on his large axe, and John stood tall with the glaive beside him. HY. Darius took the opportunity to attack from John's left side with a mighty cleave. John kicked the base of his glaive, sending the rear edge almost at Darius's face, who stepped back, rendering the two attacks useless. John didn't stop and stepped forward in Darius's range. Once again, his glaive's blade was attacking Darius's face. Darius parried with the axe's shaft, but John swung the glaive in a round, attaching with the rear edge again. Darius was good at defending and managed to stop John's constant barrage of attacks. John used many techniques to keep his opponent in check, and it was working until Darius had it. "Get away, you bastard!" Darius freed one of his hands and instantly took out a scroll. John was ready for something like yesterday's scrolls and teleported right away. To his disappointment, it wasn't a Master Rank scroll, just a fireball. John knew he was tricked by Darius to get away. A grin appeared on their faces, but John was the next to speak. "FUSRODAH, bitch." John unleashed an unrelenting force shout that arrived at Darius in an instant. The latter was too late to do anything about it, and was tossed away like a rag doll. John teleported right over Darius and stabbed at him with a glaive, but kaboom! Darius was ready for John and blasted him away with a fire rune. It was Darius's turn to teleport after John and attack him while he is falling. The axe was swung, but John managed to block with the shaft of his glaive yet. In the end, he crashed down by Darius's pressure. Die! Darius used his foot and stomped at John's face with all his might, yet John slipped to the side. The stomp resulted in a shock wave by the mere might of Darius's aura. John was about to be blasted away, but he swiftly swung the glaive at Darius's face, breaking his helmet and putting the first wound on him. "Bastard!" Darius staggered back, but John's follow-up was swift and scary. "What?" He charged at Darius and rammed at him. Darius staggered back and fell on one knee, but that's all that John needed. "Gron VUTH stad. Bind stop place." John's next shout formed a heavy earth aura around Darius and completely bound him down. Shit! Realizing his crisis, Darius focused every bit of his aura on defense. John wasn't humble either. As soon as Darius was bound, he smote him down with all manner of attacks, chipping a chunk of his vitality in the process, using the glaive's absorb vitality enchantment. Groan. Darius tried desperately to break free from the shout's effect, to no avail. John's custom shout was simply way too absurd to break with physical power, but it was this or getting his vitality chipped away. Darius focused his aura around his skin in a reckless manner. As John's next attack landed almost between the armor gaps, Darius managed to grab the glaive's blade and exerted pressure to hold John near. "Now take this." Darius detonated the aura, protecting him while holding John in place. The aura would never harm its master, so Darius's move was smart. The shockwave sent John flying like a cannonball, crashing in one of the arena's pillars. Asterisk woe. Star. Asterisk cheers. Star. John's fans were disheartened almost instantly, while Darius's fans were delighted. More to that, Darius had the ebony glaive in his hand. You are a strong bastard, but still too green. Let's see how I carve you up with this spear." Darius, who was freed from the binds, walked at John with a grin. John, in pain, looked up and wanted to move fast, but his back was all numb. "Fucker." He cursed and directed Greed to move. Greed was possessing the ebony blade. Once it was directed to move, it instantly jumped on Darius and clung to him. The ebony blade fell on the ground, but John was there to pick it. Once the blade returned to his hand, he instantly stabbed Darius's abdomen with it. The stab went through. Darius agonizingly held the blade with his hand as John retrieved Greed from his face. The attack was an endgame, and John pulled the blade before anyone could notice its identity, and Greed possessed it again. Darius, however, fell on his knees. "Any last words?" John pointed the glaive at Darius's neck. He was dying. No man can survive after receiving such an attack from the ebony blade. Darius looked up at John with a chilly glare. Not too soon. Darius felt his vitality being drained by the attack, but the Grand Champion wouldn't fall that easily. A scroll was taken out in an instant and got cast on him. This was a scroll Darius kept for a long time and didn't use all these years, but today it was time. He's going to make John pay for making him use such a treasured scroll. Golden light radiated in the middle of the arena and can almost be seen from outside it. Everyone, including John, who packed away, covered their eyes. Once the light settled down, there was a man floating where Darius was. A golden man made of colorful energies of light. None could believe what was seen. John and the high mages attending the fight couldn't believe what they saw. This is a magic that shouldn't have been seen since ages. Something that none has seen in centuries. The Thalmor may have claimed that they received this ancient magic, but this was the real thing. Such magic can only be discovered in an Iliad ruin, but none found a scroll for that magic for ages. Dawn magic, the high mages exclaimed. LGBT magic, John exclaimed. What? I mean the lights and the colors and, right? Dawn magic. The dawn magic, a relic from the dawn era. The era of creation when the original spirits walk on Tamriel with men and mare. Back then, the rules of reality were unset and the magic was too powerful. Until the Merethic era, when the time and space started to stabilize, the freedom over magic was restrained bit by bit, and some magics became not available for mortals. The magic that survived through the Dawn era and the Merethic era to the early years of the First Era was known as the Dawn magic, the magic of the Heartland High Elves, the Ayleids. They who were the original builders of this imperial city and held great respect to the light magic, considering it as the fourth element after flame, frost, and shock. They were experts in alteration, which was the magic used in creation. Their ability to control energy was beyond any magic today, and that's how powerful the dawn magic they used was. Using a scroll containing magic in an arena instead of handing it over to the arcane college to be studied is like putting a diamond necklace on a pig. The mages who realized the value of that magic were grinding their teeth as they saw the sight of Darius reaching a state of etherealness. John quickly retrieved a throwing knife and threw it at Darius, then followed it with a lightning bolt. The knife was deflected by Darius's armor, and the lightning didn't touch him. The energy around him made it, as if Magicka itself can't harm him in this state, while it kept fixing all the wounds John put on him. Physical attacks work, but he won't be harmed by any Magicka or aura whatsoever. John realized. This spell he had made him the embodiment of energy. It was a self-alteration spell that heals the caster while protecting him. The caster can attack, but can receive physical damage. It also seems that flying becomes possible in such a state. System, analyze every speck of data from that bastard. I want to know how this spell works as all cost. Confirmed. Analyzing a master rank spell from the Dawn era can take years of research, but John must do with what he has. The spell is in front of him, and he must delay Darius as much as he could. Ha ha ha. Whatever you try is fruitless. Darius said smugly. Really? I can at least land a hit every now and then. Save your efforts to oblivion. I won't let you go this easy. Darius put his axe on his shoulder and aimed his hand forward with his free hand. He cast a fireball at John, who jumped away. Even the simple spell was empowered by the effect of the dawn magic. Nel Vin Qo, fast wind lightning. John shouted the flash speed shout, and an aura of wind reinforced him. Whatever Darius cast was dodged by John on flash mode. Hey, what is that spell called? John asked. Darius didn't feel like answering. Is it become a fairy spell? 'Cause you're sparkling? John winked. Fool. Darius didn't get provoked by John, yet the latter wasn't done yet. He kept dodging whatever Darius cast and would throw a knife or an axe from time to time. Do you really believe you can catch me by activating your LGBT mode and casting spells like a half-ass boss with a second phase? You'll run out of steroids, I tell you. Why don't you shut up and die? Fascinating. The subject is responsive to provocation, maybe because of having a stick up his ass. John started taking notes out loud in his recording crystal. Is it up his ass or in his ass? I guess you're the expert here. TSK, you want me to get you? Fine, I'll come for you. Darius moved like Superman and arrived behind John in a blink of an eye. He waved his axe at John, but FEMZ Gron. Fade Spirit Bind. John was cut in half by Darius, yet there was no resistance at all. John's last shout was something as absurd as Darius's Dawn Magic Scroll, yet less effective. Become Ethereal Shout was a Thursday that John painstakingly learned for the sake of dangerous times, especially if he wants to escape. Darius, who was in a Magica embodiment state, met John, who was in an etherealness state. While Darius can't get harmed by magic and can use empowered magic and physical attacks, John can't get harmed by anything and can't attack either. What kind of magic is that? Darius was shocked. Dude, I've been shouting my lungs out all day yesterday. You're asking what magic is that today? John cringed while passing his hand through Darius's axe in wonder of his ghost state. Darius used physical attacks, magic and aura to harm John by anything, but there was no method possible. Worried about his spell running out before defeating John, Darius turned frantic. John, on the other hand, was watching Darius with interest. This dawn magic is something, man. Look at how the energy reacting to movement. It is like having a state of zero resistance with matter, but in your case, it is with energy. No wonder you can float like an idiot. John didn't stop studying Darius. Shut up and die already. Darius was frustrated by John's very presence. He felt his spell is nearing its limit, and he has to do something. All he could think of is to trap John by his axe, so whenever his state of etherealness ends, he would be in Darius's mercy. Interesting thought, THOT. But then, so is your mom. John simply walked away from his place through the axe. You bastard. John's study on Darius's state was advancing by the second, as the physical world didn't hinder him. He could estimate many points of similarities in the Dawn Magic spell and the Become Ethereal Shout. Both have the ability to store the user's body in a sub-reality on frequency with the real world. John's theory on the different frequencies of the reality was fortified even further. But now it was time. Darius's spell was about its end. Darius prepared another scroll, which seemed to be his last card, while John called out, pride, and started casting a powerful spell for when he returns real once again. In a second, Darius returned normal, all healed, and ready for action, and in the next, John returned while shooting out a master-level spell of his own. Darius was ready to tear open his scroll, but the speed of John's spell was unprecedented. John's electro beam was shot in a straight line at Darius, as if something out of sci-fi. Defending with his all, Darius put all his magica and aura just to defend against John, but the latter was unstoppable. A master-level spell that is being channeled while dealing damage with John's ridiculous amount of magica has a very obvious result. Darius was being dismantled by every second he is in front of that. He may be a match for John on physical terms, or maybe even stronger, but John is bothered faster and stronger with magic. His spell was carving a line on the arena's ground. The blinding bright spell caused many to look away. John's suffocating power made some even feel tight in their chests. Yet once the spell was over, the result was mind-blowing. You sly fucker. John couldn't help but curse. Darius was there hidden behind a gigantic storm Atronak that started to spread its body after receiving John's attack. Its size was something akin to a two-story building. The common knowledge with Atronaks is that you can't damage them by their element no matter what you do. A tiny storm Atronak can't even be bothered by a master-level spell like Electro Beam and can take it all day without worry. This storm Atronak, however, was something only Archwizards can summon. It is the Storm Monarch, the strongest form of Atronaks there is. Ha ha! How about that? Who knew I was this lucky? Ha ha ha! Even Darius himself was surprised to see that John's spell was completely blocked by his summon. That, of course, doesn't mean he didn't take any harm. He looked pale and about to cough out blood as his energies were clearly at rock bottom. John took a deep breath as he looked at the Storm Monarch in front of him. It was clearly no bound, and Darius can't even control it, but it was fully aggro to John. The thing with conjuration is that one needs enough power to force the Daedric beings into submission, and making a monarch submit is the barrier between master conjuration wizards and arch-conjuration wizards. But still, John Dare was the son of Nurina Arin, the arch-wizard of conjuration and mysticism. All who faced him have completely avoided the conjuration magic, knowing how such a thing can backfire on them. I guess it's time. I didn't really want to conjure that bastard anytime soon, but whatever. John teleported back as the Storm Monarch was about to attack him. He looked at Darius with a face full of pity. Don't blame me now. You brought that upon yourself. John took a deep breath and spoke. Zykel, you're up. And the void around him distorted. John was enveloped in the void as another gigantic being appeared. Mortal, I miss you. Oh God. P4 tray 0N. Goal. +4 extra. Next. +5 extra. Pat Rayon. com/Eldokmizi. Remove. PayPal. +$10 equals extra. PayPal. me/Eldokmizi. Extras by votes. 5,000/8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. Chapter 436, The Grand Champion. So, I haven't been paying attention to my email lately, and thus my supporters, sorry, with all the researching, bad sleeping schedule, job interviews, and all lately. So, big special thanks to @Tunder999 for joining the Platinum rank. Also big thanks for @Christian Johansson for joining the Stone rank. You people are legendary. Mortal, I miss you. Oh dear God. John Sai, what now? Mortal, I need your help with something. Not now, Zykel. If you notice the situation around us, it will be not good for my image to talk about those things here. Things? What things? Oh, those things. But no, I'm not talking about those things. Then hurry up, man. We're killing someone here. Right. You know that Draymora I told you about? Vaxerl? The name rings a bell. Well, Vaxerl told me that Shelkel from the Black Fortress has heard from Zelmax that Vixiv heard Kaxvav saying that Coxra of the clan Zalx has met with a vampire called Serena. Oh, so you heard from Serana. You're smart indeed, Mortal. Right? I heard from her. Sorry, guys. We'll take just a second. John excused himself from the arena business for a second. Somehow everyone was so polite and didn't retort to him. Or so he thought. Go on. Yes. Coxra from the clan Zalx told Kaxvav, who told Vixiv, who told Zelmax, who told Shelkel from the Black Fortress, who told Vaxerl, who told me. How can you be so idiot and have an exceptional memory at the same time? Don't know. Fine. What did Vaxerl hear from Shelkel from whatever it was? I completely forget. Shelkel from the Black Fort. The point, Zykel. Oh, Vaxerl told me that she is doing all right. Oh, really? You asked me if I have information about her last time, right? Okay. Is it just that, or there's another legendary fable I need to hear about? No, just that she is doing all right in Cold Harbor. She goes to the Hollow City to spend time in secret too, and that's all. No one discovered any passage to the Hollow City or anything. Well, that's assuring, Zykel. I don't know what could I have done without you, right? I know too. Being a complete waste of my time. You could have just... Never mind. Where was I? I've arrived at the Imperial City. Had a party, sex. Well, that's too many sex. Challenged the Grand Champion to save Mirren's chastity. Beat them all the way to him. Had the fucker cornered, and he summoned a big-ass Storm Monarch. Mortal, you're getting good at this. God damn it. Your idiocy is contagious. Just fire breath that Storm Monarch and get lost. Gladly. And the fight continued, or rather ended. Zykel spat out a chunk of the essence draining flame at the Storm Atronak, then went after it and started punching the stones of its body while John went after Darius. Sorry to keep you waiting. You monster. Been hearing that a lot lately. John replied at the dumbfounded Darius, who couldn't still be healed from Zykel's appearance, and yes, it is that scary. John's attack was still full of vigor and power while it seemed that Darius was already drained after John's beam attack. Die for I, your daddy, John shouted while waving the glaive at Darius, who took the impact with his axe and retreated. BAS. Bastard. They'll get you for this. Who's they? Ask. Your maker. Darius lashed out, waving his axe with all the strength left in him, but John evaded easily while leaving a big cut on Darius's back. Was it the ones who invested all these master-level scrolls? It can't be the gambling lords, since they're mostly cowards? Interesting. Things are finally escalating. John smiled and waved the glaive upwards down, attacking the head. Darius tried to defend, but the blade went through his helm and cut his face, taking his left eye. He completely staggered from the pain, but kept distance from John. Come on, fight back. I know you run out of scrolls, but you can at least wave that axe, right? I'm not killing sheep right here, John said with a stern tone, rather than being his provocative self. Shut up. Darius was angry, knowing that he was bested. Ever since becoming the grand champion, he knew this day would come, but not while he is in his prime. Not too soon. Life doesn't wait for anyone to make amends. That said, Darius was now in the same position he put many in before. Someone younger and stronger will appear. That's the iron rule of the arena, but John was just too hateful. A man with so many skills and abilities should keep to himself and leave the world of normal decent folk to decent folk and live among the monsters he is one of. That's what was in Darius's mind. John realized that, and now that fear got into Darius, it was no longer fun. Sigh. Fine. John teleported from his place and appeared behind Darius, waving the glaive at his neck. No, Darius refused to surrender and defended, but John's actions were more of a cold assassin rather than a gallant fighter. He disappeared from his place and attacked from another before Darius realized. An arm was taken. Darius tried to defend with the one that is left, but it was taken too. This level of attacks. John actually had more in his sleeves than what he showed. John, however, would disagree. In a fair fight, he is well matched with Darius, but if he was looking to kill from the start, Darius wouldn't have even realized what hit him. The ebony mail concealed John's presence and didn't hinder any of his movement, as the armor was almost weightless. Having such an armor means John's assassination skill has jumped a few notches up. Azadul's boots of the apostle made him fast as wind. The Shadow Stone made him even faster and sneakier. John may have never practiced being an assassin, but he has the aptitude, the potential, and the ability. Darius was being dismantled by all manners of sneaky, swift attacks. Last what he saw was the glaive's blade coming out of his chest through his back. The absorb vitality, enchantment on the ebony blade, ended everything faster and quicker. Darius fell on his knees with a face full of wounds, but not a shred of agony. John was Confederate, even though he didn't like Darius. Making him shit himself while calling John a monster and shouting to heaven is no proper way for a grand champion to die. A swift, cold death is better than a miserable one if he couldn't give his enemy the proper death of a heated fight. By the time, Zyko was also done with the Storm Monarch and excused himself back to oblivion. John looked around to see the crowd that was looking at the arena with shock. Darius died? This fast? No way, he just summoned a big Atronak. Impossible. Don't you see that John Dare has summoned a dragon? That's not a dragon, you idiot. Dragons don't get summoned like Deidre. But he killed Darius like that. While some questioned the end of the match, others didn't think of anything and just cheered. These were John's die-hard fans. John Dare, John Dare, John, 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 John. Dare, 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 Dare. John took his helmet off with a slight smile and looked at the announcer, who was surrounded by many people. It seems like things were not going as smooth as he thought, as some nobles seemed to have another say in the match. This wasn't the stereotypical corrupt noble thing, but it wasn't that far either. It is simply when someone loses a hefty sum of money, they tend to do anything to not let that money slip away if they have the power. John focused his aura on his ears and heard them talking about not letting a wanted exiled person represent the Imperial arena. One also said that the Thalmor arrest force should be on the gates of the Imperial capital right now. John smiled and shook his head. He could just summon a fucking Daedric Titan and shoot master-level spells, yet these idiots want to take the meat from the lion's mouth. Hey, John shouted. His voice carried a lot of fighting spirit and killing intent that woke many out of their dreams. Of course, he can't go on a rampage in the Imperial capital, not if he is not afraid of the hidden masters in the Empire, but if he decided to swiftly and effectively kill them without anyone knowing who can stop him. The announcer was freed from the clutches of the nobles and arrived at his platform and blew his trumpet. Trumpet music. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Duncan of Daggerfall, your humble and loyal minstrel. It is my honor and my privilege to announce the new Grand Champion of the Imperial Arena, the grandest arena of Tamriel. By defeating the former Grand Champion in a legendary fight, we present to you the Grand Champion, John Dare. I think it is time, John said. I can't believe we are saying farewells in the Bloodworks. You are horrible, John. You could have at least stayed for the night. Vittoria said. I know, but as far as I was told, His Imperial Majesty seems to not be appreciating my innocent visit to his glorious city. John said, I'll deal with my cousin. I prefer to let you have less trouble to deal with. I'll see you again in 2 years, or less if we are lucky. She nodded without replying. Well then, I hope the last trick is ready. Yes, she replied. Mr. Duncan, I believe that you are familiar with Sir John Dare. Duncan of Daggerfall, a humble bard. It is my meat to see you in person, Grand Champion. Vittoria introduced the arena announcer, Duncan, to John. Thank you. I understand that you are the man Miss Vittoria recommended for the job. Indeed, and you understand the risk. Grand Champion, I may be not an excellent fighter such as yourself, but I am still a member of the arena. Good man, John said, and handed Duncan a chest of a few potion vials, scrolls, and a small staff. These are 15 transformation potions, something that can make you take my form, and these scrolls have spells only I know to cast. As agreed on, during the next 2 years, I want you to make at least 10 appearances in my form all across Iredale. Appear, attract attention, and you will be rewarded. I left your pay with Vittoria, and if anything happened to you, your family in Daggerfall will be given 1,000 gold coins for the risk you have taken. I am not sure, Grand Champion, but I think you are tempting me to die as soon as I can. Ha ha, good man. John laughed. He looked around and then at Vittoria. This is goodbye. I will see you again. Fare thee well, Grand Champion, John said as he left to his secret entrance. Where do you think you're going? But someone shouted behind him. God no, John exclaimed. The old arena master was right on John's heels. Here, you're the Grand Champion. Take your raiment of valor. The old man tossed a heavy plate armor at John with the Empire's crest on it. I'll keep it with Duncan, John said. Now scram. Some Imperials are here to give you a warrant of surrender. If they catch you, you will be officially banned from entering the city and will be stripped from your Grand Champion title. Okay, see you. John walked out of the arena to find his companions waiting for him outside in their fancy carriage. Mirren, my friend, no one is after our gay scene anymore. John, I told you we should leave before he says it. Mirren, too late. We have Thalmor on our 12 and Imperial on our 6. You guys know what that means, right? John, what? Isha. John drove the carriage at top speed in the middle of the Imperial city and made the bystanders jump around in fright. Not until he reached the city gate did he see the Thalmor arrest team. Gentlemen, this is the day you'll always remember as the day you almost caught. Crash. Captain John Dare. P4TRE0 and goal 6 extra. Pat Rayon. com/Eldokmeezy. Remove. PayPal plus $10 equals extra. PayPal. me/Eldokmeezy. Extras by votes. 5,000/8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. Chapter 437. From Cyrodiil to Hammerfell. In third world countries, internet may break down for a week until they decide to fix it after the political drama passes by. Loudly crying face, loudly crying face, loudly crying face. I experienced a lifestyle without internet. The way my ancestors used to live ever since the dawn of history. Person wearing turban, person wearing turban, person wearing turban. I got to meet my family and friends offline and found out that they're actually nice people once you give them time. Face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy. God damn it, guys. I don't know what to say about this anymore. I just hope the overpriced data plan I have lasts until this is over. Come at me, bro. John. Freedom. Jax. Huh. You missed. John. I will catch you, human. Jax. Told you to call me boss. John. Bang. Human is enjoying himself. Nefertiti, while reshaping the terrain. Isha. After the troublemakers escaped the capital, they charged through a band of Thalmor and kept running without taking a single rest. A week passed of constant high-speed riding, and the team was sure that they shook all tails by now. Right now, they are in the Colovian Highlands and bypass Coral by 2 days heading west to Hammerfell. At some point, the seven were tired of a full week of either spending time in the cube or riding the mad carriage. John also wanted a chance to introduce himself to his newest Minotaur employee, Jax Drumhoof. Come on, you are strong, but you are so slow. If you can't land a single hit, I won't tell you how I killed Malvis Bloodhorn and his men. John taunted. You will tell me. Jax charged with his horns at John, yet John nimbly jumped up over Jax with a flip, supporting himself over Jax's head with a single finger and landing gracefully. I told you, didn't I? If you go for power, I will go for speed. If you go for speed, I'll go for accuracy. If you go for accuracy, I will go for power. It is basically rock, paper, and scissors, John said while instructing the Minotaur and bullying him at the same time. Snort. So many things to remember. Jax was displeased by John's treacherous style. However, it is as John said. Brute fighting tactics can be broken by nimble consecutive attacks, which can in turn be taken down by one swift and accurate hit. However, a brute will need more than just one swift hit. That's how John understood how to fight. Let's stop here, Jax. You obviously can't hit me, but if you agree to work for me, I'll tell you what you want to know. I'll even teach you some good tricks. John said. Snort. No, I'll hit you. Quit being bull-headed. John said. I am bull-headed. Oh, right, was it racist? No, lizard folk are lizard-headed. Cat folk are cat-headed. Makes sense. Anyway, I'll tell you what you want to know if you be my coachman. What say you? I don't know. Judging by your story, you can't just stroll back to the Gerald Mountains with every Minotaur over there after your head. You also said you were at odds with the orcs, so staying away from there is a good idea. True, fine. I'll tag along until things clear up. Good. Guys, we hired a Minotaur coachman. Maybe the only one in the world. John waved to his group. Traveling with him may be fast, but mind-consuming. Isha complained. Yes. I feel so stupid getting dragged into his trouble now that the Thalmor are on the lookout for us. Mirren sighed. It is fun so far. Miranda murmured. The forest they were hiding in kept them clear from the scouting patrols and the Thalmor pursuers. John and Jax may have taken it upon themselves to mess up the terrain, but they ended up coming to a deal. They resupplied for fresh food and water from the nearby village of Hackdirt. I really should have delayed that damn championship challenge. I could have toured Cyrodiil for some time. John complained. Speaking of which, I did have a tour with Isha around the Imperial City the night prior to the fight. Mirren said, Want me to blast you up from jealousy? 'Cause I am jealous. John retorted, Don't be a brat. Nothing was really that interesting. However, the Temple of the One was magnificent, and we got to see the dragon statue, which is thought to be the resting place of the last Septim Emperor, Martin Septim. You really are asking for a beating now. Give me details. Okay, geez. The dragon statue was transferred from the center of the temple to the garden around it, but received some damage when the Almarai Dominion sacked the Imperial City. Other than that, we took some time around the Elven Garden District and the Market District. Tisk, John was really interested in having a tour in the Imperial City, but that can hold for later. The Thalmor were distracted enough, and there is a hired copycat that will appear and disappear around Cyrodiil to make the Thalmor run around like fools. There is something else, however, Mirren said as he spoke secretly to John. What? Mirren looked around to see Isha and Miranda fooling around with Jax and Nefertiti. No one was focusing on them. Isha was being watched in the city and in the arena. Mirren said, "Is that so?" John frowned. "I'm positive. Thanks to the Thalmor, we are always on edge for pursuers, so some stalkers might have not been too important, but what I noticed is their sole interest in Isha. I have let her for a few minutes and kept watching them, but they were just keeping an eye. That's strange. Still, you're good at finding stalkers." "I know. Stalking is my specialty." "Creep. That came out totally wrong. Anyway, someone stalking out another is always up to no good. Did you stalk them in return?" "No. I usually need my sister to cover me up in those situations. We function better this way. That leads us nowhere. We just have to be wary in the future. I'll mark Isha to keep her location in check." "Thanks." John and Mirren didn't know that they were up to something terrible at the moment, but the situation was peaceful around them. "What are you two chatting secretly about?" "Isha. Boy stuff. Go away, pervert." "John. I think they are planning on what John calls gay scene." "Miranda. Sister. Wash your mouth." "Mirren. John. Mirren, you boys got a real nerve." Cracking fingers, Isha. "Isha, wait." "Mirren. Run for your lives." "John. What separates countries from each other are mostly mountain ranges or seas. In the case of Hammerfell and Cyrodiil, it is the extension of the Gerald Mountains and the Dragontail Mountains that separate the two and what John and his party have to cross. To cross through undetected roads. The carriage ran through the Colovian Highlands to the south and entered Kvatch County in by the following week. 3 days later, they arrived at the Abyssian Sea. Such a warm sea and clear blue made John stare at it endlessly along the road. The scenery continued until they reached the border point at River Berna. John mindlessly used a stealth spell, and the carriage rode over the bridge without anyone noticing. As they reached a safe distance, Isha opened the carriage and stepped down. "Welcome to Hammerfell, Hagoth, Volenfell, or if you want adventure, welcome to the Deathland," she said. "I will assume that you will be our guide from now on." John said, "Yes, and the first thing you must do is to prepare some light caftan for day and a heavy cloak for night. Rahat has friendly weather, but beyond that, you will get to experience how Hammerfell really works." Isha said, "And I see John is already tying up the turban. Nice skill. I've been waiting to visit Hammerfell and do this my whole life," John said with a prideful face. He started to feel the dry weather that brought him way back to the time of his past life. "So what is the first thing we expect? Are the deserts still far?" Mirren asked. "Yep, we won't go near any desert anytime soon." "No," the whole team complained. "Face it, you idiots. No one travels through a desert unless they have a death wish." Ish scolded. "I have one. Can I go now?" John asked. "We are not avoiding deserts. They're not on our road anyway. But rest assured, once we cross half of the way, we will arrive at the most infamous desert in the whole Hammerfell, the Alakar Desert. Happy now?" "Nah, no desert. I'll take off the turban." "Human, can I eat desert?" Depressed about seeing no seas of endless golden sands, the team traveled along the Abyssian coast for days. Hammerfell as a province is divided into 8 major states divided between the Forebears and the Crowns, the largest 2 factions in Hammerfell and the ever-bitter enemies. Other factions like the neutral Lotinics, the nomadic tribes, and the independent sects and mosques were very common in Hammerfell, just like the clans of Skyrim that remained hidden out of political life. The first thing to encounter in Hammerfell from River Berna's Pass was the rocky land through the Republic of Rahat. The coastal city on the Abyssian heavily influenced by the imperial culture and home of great towers and a gigantic shipyard. To the northwest is Tanith Republic, and across the gulf is Husbane. Isha said, "Husbane, what a great name." Husbane. Hose. Huse. Forget it. To avoid John's disturbing jokes, Isha decided to take the land road to Tanith, by reaching that city, the desert started to appear on the roadsides. The traveling speed has decreased, notably since Hammerfell roads were not as good as the Empire's. It took a couple of weeks to cross to travel through the two republics and finally enter the Crown to Tambo region. From that point onward, the rocky roads became open and the horse Atronax ran like the wind, crossing the Kefram district region in 3 days to finally arrive at the edges of the great Alakar Desert. From that point, Isha was the only able navigator in this place. John kept mapping the area with his gadgets, but it started to get messy at some point. Once, they met a sword dervish who wanted to challenge the strong creature riding the carriage, Jax, for a duel. Another time was a band of desert marauders. Third time was a lost Thalmor patrol. For a place that was supposed to be a desert, it is so damn lively. More importantly, John managed to get in a full Redgar desert style and hunted a bunch of snakes with Nefertiti to prey on them. Nefertiti was fond of eating snakes to the point that she was willing to endanger the ecosystem. What was also interesting was the fact that the desert was really hot during the day and very cold at night. The thing that made John, as a Nord and Fire Main, cope easily with the place along with Isha, while the High Elf siblings along with the Minotaur were stuffed in the cube. John also got to store away the carriage and conjured an Atronac camel along with Isha. Sad storms, desert worms, gigantic birds, stray undead, desert hyenas and lions. The Alakar Desert was warmly welcoming the clueless Nord with all its arsenal, as he kept smashing anything in his wake. Once it all settled down and the desert became peaceful, a large dome appeared in the middle of the desert on a big rock plateau. It was then when John called out the rest. The Citadel of Ebenarm bids you welcome, travelers. Did you come in peace for worship, or are you a merchant? A woman walked out from the cover of a mound of sand, donned in a scale mail, and carrying 2 scimitars. Zara, Isha called. The woman called Zara heard Isha's voice, and her face hardened. Isha, the 2 women looked at each other with hard expressions. The rest felt some awkward situation was about to happen, but the woman called Zara looked away and walked by herself. That is, John asked. My sister-in-law, Zane's wife. It seemed like some family drama he should stay clear of. Jumped off her Atronac mount and walked after Zara. John and the rest followed. She is the key to your last labor. But still, John felt something was wrong, very wrong. P4 Tray 0N. Goal 6 extra. Pat Rayon. com/Eldok Meezy. Remove. PayPal plus $10 equals extra. PayPal. Me/Eldok Meezy. Extras by votes. 5,000/8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. Chapter 438. Her Brother. The Citadel of Ebenarm, a sect of warriors hidden within the Alakar Desert. Many come to visit and trade despite the dangers of the Alakar. The dome in the middle of the desert on a rock was just a simple mirage of a small town on a wide plateau with magnificent buildings around. The funny thing about it is that one has to cross all the desert to get to it, meaning that by the other side of the citadel is the other edge of the desert. From there, the capital of Hammerfell, Sentinel, is not that far. There is no mention to the location of the Citadel of Ebenarm, but it was said that the Fighters' Guild halls in the Alakar Desert are sacred lands to the Citadel of Ebenarm. Making the Fighters' Guild halls close to Sentinel is only my assumption. On the span of the plateau, the scene of many domes and minaret made together the Citadel of Ebenarm. Under each dome was a school of martial arts led by a certain battle lord different than the other schools. The largest 4 domes belong to the most prestigious 4 schools: the School of the Sword, the School of the Saber, the School of the Spear, and the School of the Staff. Despite the different schools and factions, the Citadel was one single order similar to an order of knights, and their duty will be fending off the land from all manners of threats, such as vampires, undead, necromancers, and Daedra. The Fighters' Guild also operates on their ground as allies, while the relationship between the Citadel of Ebenarm and the Temple of Stender is said to be chaotic. Through the eyes of many, John and his odd-looking party followed Isha, who in turn followed her sister-in-law, Zura. Isha didn't talk much about her people, and John didn't ask, as he expected things would be awkward. Still, Isha is a comrade in arms, and there is a lot of honor to this bond. Whatever Isha needed or faced in the team that followed her here will always be there for her. Still, things weren't as awkward as John expected later on. Once they came across more warriors from the Citadel, they all looked at Isha as if they saw some big idol and whispered words about her. Something about being an apprentice to the head spear battle lord. Zara, I want to see my brother. At long last, Isha spoke to Zara after she noticed that her sister-in-law is leading her to the innermost central dome of the largest mosque. Zara only stopped and looked back at Isha with an expressionless face. Zane can wait. The masters put an order for you to report to them once you arrive. Zara said in a stern voice. What? I came all this way for Zane. The masters can... Isha complained and went her way. Stop being a brat, will you? Zara scolded. Isha halted her steps and looked at Zara with a frown. It looked like a sister-in-law's drama at first, but the two women seemed pretty nervous around each other. Miran walked behind Isha. Isha, let's just play by the rules. It was obvious that tension between the two ladies had a source, but keeping Isha away from trouble was the only thing they can do right now. The masters wanted to see her. The masters get what they want. Isha was reluctant to act, but soon she followed Zara silently. In the streets of the Citadel, John found many familiar goods and rarities he completely forgot about. Maybe he can compensate himself for the tour of the imperial city he couldn't have in this wonderful town. Soon after, they were at the entrance of the innermost central dome. Zara stopped and turned to Isha's companions rather than Isha. Only those who are worthy may enter. That's just for your own good, she said. John tilted his head, but it seemed that Miran and Miranda were familiar with the situation. Apprentice Miran, a journeyman from the Desert Wind School of Elsewhere, here for exchange by the order of my masters. Apprentice Miranda, the same. The two professionally identified themselves. John didn't know what kind of situation is this or what title to use. I vouch for Krylin as a powerful sorcerer and a comrade. Isha said, very well. They were all allowed in. Beyond the door, steps was a powerful pressure of energy that was probably the reason why Zara stopped them at the door. Everyone fell hard to master up power under the pressure, but John brushed it off easily. They entered a large courtyard under the dome. Those who carried a left it at the doorway as the customary respect to holy ground and proceeded in. Under a cloth shed sat a number of men and women. They looked relatively aged but strong in both body and spirit. A gathering of Redgar masters of arms, but looked more like a gathering of dervishes and mystics. Isha took a deep breath before approaching the masters. They saw her, and some carried hints of surprise, while others looked indifferent. Zara pointed for John and the rest to sit on the edge of the shed, and a servant presented Redguard coffee and date fruits. So, my long-lost apprentice has returned. A Redguard woman among the gathering spoke. Teacher, Isha replied, 2 years of drifting have led you back here. To whom do we owe the pleasure? Isha's teacher asked. I have returned after fulfilling what I left for. And you fulfilled it. Yes, I am free from the Daedra. And the curse on my brother is no more. I came home. Isha said, as if it is an obvious thing. The masters and apprentices around the courtyard frowned. The curse is no more, and you came home? Of what use can that be? Isha's teacher spoke out loud. What are you talking about, my brother? You disappeared for 2 years with nothing but a note. You said you're leaving to look for a way to dispel the curse cast by the Daedra. We know nothing about you for months, and then hear news about you following Daedra cultists and doing errands for them. Not errands. It was trials to settle the grudge the Daedra have. My brother should be free from his torture by now. Isha explained. But you're saying you left the order to seek salvation for your brother? What use can salvation do him? Isha's teacher replied with anger. What are you talking about? He is my brother. Enough, Zara shouted from the side. Rude as it was, She was the wife of Isha's brother, which meant the matter is related to her. Zane, he would want nothing of this fight. Master Nagla, Isha, there is no point arguing about this anymore. Zara said, Zara is right. As long as everything is okay for my brother, I am willing to receive any punishment. I swear to redeem myself. Redeem? For what? Isha, listen. You don't need to go through this any longer. It won't fix anything. Zara said, Won't fix? Isha's expressions became grim. I've been fixing this since the day I left for my brother's sake. How dare you say it won't fix anything? The situation escalated for the worse. None was able to make heads and tails of what's going on anymore. John watched silently from the side as Isha, her teacher, and Zara were shouting at each other. Isha was having a strange obsession with the word brother. John, Mirin, and Miranda knew that Isha was close to her brother, but something was wrong. On the other hand, her master was angry at her for leaving on an honorable quest to find a way to dispel curse on her bloodkin. Zara, who is the wife of the said brother, was acting all defeated. It seemed that her relationship with Isha was not good, judging by their encounter, but they were not hating each other. This doesn't feel right. It is as if they all are arguing about different things. John murmured, What? Mirin and Miranda took note of John's remark. The argument between the three women reached its climax, and Isha was about to lash out at the two. Stop her, Mirin. Now. John realized something terrible. What? Just do it, hold her still. Knowing John has a reason, Mirin and Miranda moved in a speck of a second and held Isha from two sides. What are you doing? Let go of me. Let go. Losing her patience, Isha was resisting like a wild heart, but John was already in front of her. You need to calm down, he said while casting a close-range spell on her. John normally does not use illusions, but this spell was very useful to put down a raging ally. It is not calm, but a stronger variant called deactivation. Once the spell came in contact, Isha lost all the power in her body, as if going unconscious. The argument halted and the mood frozen. Next thing John knew was weapons flying from all over the place to the hands of those masters and aiming at him, Mirin and Miranda. The auras of those masters was so strong and domineering. John himself wasn't a match in a direct fight. That may have been a bad idea after all, Mirin commented. Take distance from her, strangers. Isha's teacher spoke. Okay, but at first, hey, my name is Krylin. Not my real one, but the one I go around with. Anyway, we are Isha's friends. Nice to meet you. Isha's very angry aunts and uncles. We are sorry to interrupt like that, but in case you were so busy arguing, you didn't notice that there was some sort of misunderstanding going on? John said, What have you done to her? Zara asked while aiming her scimitar at John. I put her to a higher calmness state. She can hear and see, but she can't fully act or react. It will wear off once she is calm enough. John said, More importantly, Isha and I have been friends for almost a year now, and this is my first time seeing her lose it like that, even though the shivering aisles. Now, I think something is unnatural about this situation, and as warriors, you must have felt it, right? For a mage's intuition to be stronger than a warrior. Even those who felt nothing nodded. John looked at Isha in Mirin's arms. I'm sorry, but let me handle things. After apologizing to her, John turned to Zara. Madam, can you please take us to your husband? John asked. The masters put away their weapons, and Isha's teacher, Spearmaster Nagla, went ahead. Follow me. John followed Nagla and Zara as Mirin and Miranda supported Isha. Other masters and apprentices joined until the small group reached a house at the edge of the plateau with a view to a large oasis beside. Zara didn't enter the house, but walked until the shore of the oasis where a single palm tree stood. And all stopped. There was no need to see or understand more at this moment. Can you wake her now? Zara asked John. John nodded and merely snapped his fingers for Isha to return back to full consciousness at once. She could feel the heaviness of the mood around her. John sighed and cleared the way for Isha. She saw the palm tree and looked down to its base where a single tombstone stood. What are you showing me? What is the meaning of this? Where's my brother? Isha asked, looking around to the one beside her. Everyone looked down or averted their eyes. Isha, what are you saying? Zain is dead. He died to the curse 2 years. Nagla said. Zara looked at Isha and spoke. We buried him together. P4 tray 0N. Goal. 6 extra. Pat Rayon. com/Eldok Meezy. Remove. PayPal. Plus $10 equals extra. PayPal. Me/Eldok Meezy. Extras by votes. 5,000/8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. Chapter 439. Answers Between the Sand 1. A week has passed since Isha's descent to silence. No one understood what is going on in her head and only gave her space while watching her from a distance. Mirren kept a close eye on her all the time, brought her meals, and helped her sleep. John, Miranda, and Zara changed shifts with him, but he was the one taking care of her the most. To both Zara and Isha, the story of Zain was a painful memory that they didn't speak of. To the other people around the Citadel, it was a tragedy of a fallen hero. The Citadel of Ebenarm can be said as the Redguard version of the Vigilance Extender. While the Vigilance being zealous priests, the Citadel warriors and passionate martial artists. One of the reasons why the two order never mixed well at all. Zain was a candidate to be the next Spear Battlelord, a brave warrior whose skills grew unmatched among his peers to the point where some envied him. He made enemies with some apprentices and caused them to lose face. He exposed many wrongdoers and punished a lot of sinners. All of those who survived wished for his disappearance, and thus some made a pact with a Daedra. They led Zain to a trap using his little sister, Isha, as bait and cornered him in the place of their ritual. Curse Zain, turn him into what he hates the most, and a Daedric prince that answered turned Zain into what he couldn't bear to be. What a warrior like Zain would hate the most should be something weak, insignificant, and incredibly puny. Maybe a bug that they can step on, a mouse that they can carry around in a cage, and show him how they kill his sister. They thought he would be something feeble, as all warriors hate what is feeble. But that wasn't the case at all. It was obvious by that time that the Daedra who heard the prayers of the rogue apprentices was none other than the father of the man-beast, the Daedric Prince Herson. Zain became a werewolf. Those who cornered him and drove him and his sister to a trap faced something they were not ready for, and were hunted down in the matter of a few minutes by the raging werewolf. No one of them has ever thought that what Zain would hate the most would be war creatures. This miscalculation led to the survival of both Zain and Isha, the young girl who witnessed it all. As they returned to the Citadel, Zain begged for a merciful execution, a swift death by the spear of his master. "Kill me, I beg of you. Have mercy on us all," he shouted. But no, the Battlelords couldn't bear to do it. The brightest star of a generation, the genius of the spear, the idol of all his peers. "Leave the Citadel, seek the sages, find a cure." They replied. A cure for the lycanthropy was not an easy thing. The heads of those who laid the curse were required. Even though the corpses were fresh, it didn't work. Why? This was not a common lycanthropy disease. It was a curse by a Daedric prince, a being revered as a god and feared as a devil. Things became complicated, and Zain grew desperate. His wife supported him to her best. His sister did what she could to look for a cure to what she always believed to be her fault. Barely any progress was made. Zain rejected what he became, hated it, and despised it. A werewolf was what killed his father. A werewolf is what he became. A werewolf is what he was fated to die as. There is no far shores for him as an afterlife. There is no way to the paradise lands of no hunger or thirst that Redguards yearn for. Instead, his fate was the hunting grounds, the realm of Herson where all the war creatures he abhors gather to hunt in their lord's name for eternity. A fate worse than anything he can imagine. For that, he came to hate what he became, cursing the Daedra day in and day out as the Daedra cursing him back. His hate grew to include himself. He was no longer what he once was, and he headed out for one final attempt for a cure. If it wasn't possible, he would make someone kill him and trap his soul in black soul gem he managed to get his hands on and end on his terms rather than an end on the Deidre's terms. But that one last trip turned out to be a failure, and he was injured fatally. He was carried home on the spears of his companions and delivered to his family and friends at death's door. And the life of the man known as Zane ended in suffer and pain, surrounded by the grief of his widow and the cries of his sister. The sister who never accepted all of it, who shunned sanity aside and chased ghosts, and Deidre that played tricks upon 1,000 trick on her. She left her home shortly after the incident with a note saying that only a Deidre can revert what a Deidre did and sought out darkness. And she returned empty-handed with nothing but forgetfulness and tricks played on her by the Deidre. You seem to be more aware of the other half of the tale, so are you satisfied now, Outlander? The spear battlelord Nagla said as John listened. I don't know how to feel about this. As someone under a pact with a Deidre too, I'm not even sure how can things get this messy. John said. The two were meeting near the house of Isha and Zara, where John and the others were staying. It was hard to find a time to ask about the story of Zane, as the whole past week was a bit of a struggle. If you want my advice, never involve yourself with Deidre, she said. My mother said the same. Funny, I am very involved with the Deidre at the moment. That's why I know about the Deidre princes and their behaviors, which makes me find it very strange. Why would Herson and Bothia trick Isha? John said. They are Deidre. I know, Spearmaster, but is it that simple? Something is amiss. Nagla sighed. I know what you're thinking. We also investigated and invited many Deidreologists to investigate the matter. They told us that Herson is known to be vengeful Daedric prince who would torture the enemies of his horde. And Bothia, that is the prince of deceit for you. What was Bothia promised to Isha? To find her brother back home free of his suffering. And that's that in a way, Nagla said, but you look like a man who wants more answers. I do, John nodded, but that's all I can ask you, Spearmaster. I am sorry for disturbing you. It is okay. This girl is very broken. She is my apprentice and a family in a way. I can't stand her being like this. Mirren is looking after her. She will go through this. John and Nagla separated as he returned inside the house. Zara was there, as she seemed to have returned from her patrol. Sister Zura, Brother Krylin, please call me John. You'll find your food still warm and nice over there. I also drew some water earlier. John said, while offering help for Isha, who put her weapons away. Thank you. You really are doing too much. You buy and prepare the food, clean the place, and take care of Isha. Well, I'm trying not to be a heavy guest, and now I feel like a terrible host. Please never mind it. Isha is a comrade. I was wondering if I can get a guide around the Alakar deserts, someone who can keep up with me in speed and power while knowing every nook and cranny in the desert. John asked. That's an easy demand. Many warriors fall under that description. Just don't mind me if I'm rude to ask. You look like a large warrior and all, but how fast can a magic caster be? Zara said, Sister, I am the grand champion of the Imperial Arena. Oh, that's why never introduced yourself that way first. Because my identity is troublesome. You will find out once news travels from the Imperial City to here. Now, I was asking for a guide. There's this man from the School of the Saber. His name is Ilander Desha, bronze-haired, silver-eyed, very popular among his peers. He is an excellent guide and an amazing tracker and hunter. He is also a friend of Isha, so he will help you. Ilander Desha is a character sponsored by Orpheus. That's excellent. What are you planning to do in the desert? Nothing much. Just looking for something that may help her. You're going to follow some trail about Zane, won't you? Zara asked. I hope it doesn't come to that, John said, assuring her. Meaning, I want to follow Isha's trail and see what happened to her when she left the Citadel for the first time. I know she won't speak, and it is not my business, but I'm having a similar situation to hers as a laborer. If knowing the missing part of the story would help me avoid such fate, or if it helps us help her, I think it is worth a try. I see. I would say that what happened to Isha is only due to grief, but I think something involving the Daedra can't be that simple. Maybe everything will be okay with time, but who knows? Be careful out there, Zara said. John could feel the sadness in her tone as he tried to assure her he is not investigating what happened to Zane, but rather what happened to Isha. Yet that was a lie. Being the key to his seventh labor, Isha's predicament must mean something. What was John too afraid to think of was that Isha's situation is his doing of some way, or his labor involving may be the reason behind all that. If that's true, he may not be able to forgive himself or the Daedra who fucked up this whole thing. Something needs to be done. By the next morning, John arrived at a coffee place in where young men gather and asked about Illander de Shah. And I heard a Nord giant is looking for me. Turns out to be true. The man in question appeared before him, just as Zara described. Bronze hair, silver eyes, fairly popular, if John had to guess the horoscope. Then he looks like a warrior, Leo equivalent. Illander was carrying a scimitar and looking casual. Krylin, saw you in the meeting of masters. Thank you for standing up for Isha. Illander de Shah, at your service. Heard from Sister Zara you are an excellent guide. Heard right. What is your destination? Around the desert to some, unadvisable to approach places. John said. Oh, that would double the expenses for you. Deal. You didn't even hear my price. Is it in gold? Yes. Then deal. P4 tray 0N. Goal. 6 extra. Pat Rayon. com/Eldok Meezy. Remove. PayPal. plus $10 equals extra. PayPal. me/Eldok Meezy. Extras by votes. 5,000/8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. Chapter 440. Answers Between the Sand. 2-3. Double release. Daily plus 2/6 monthly chapter. Beforehand heading to the desert, John had to see Isha one more time, and so did Illander. The girl who suffered the most in this situation is definitely her, and she knows things that might help them. John knew that Isha wreaked havoc in a Daedric cult that belonged to Bothia, which angered the prince. That's why she became a laborer. John's first lead is Bothia, or rather her prophet, Hafiz, an elderly redguard that pointed Isha's labors to her. The thing is, Bothia gave Isha a blessing, and a powerful one at that. He was hesitant to blame Bothia for Isha's plight. More to that, Herson was the one who cursed Zane with lycanthropy, but that didn't make sense in a way. Herson rarely punished with lycanthropy as he considers it his gift. But the fact that Zane became a werewolf can only point to that. Curses and rituals varied and gave mortals a lot of control over powers unknown. It is completely possible that a curse exists outside logic and law. Sadly, Isha didn't speak a word. Still, what links the curse put by Herson to Bothia? Why would Isha go after such a cult and cause herself to be a laborer? What is the exact ritual that was cast on Zane? What happened on his last journey for a cure? Where's Hafiz? And the most mind-wrecking question, what makes Herson allow his favorite weapon, the spear of bitter mercy, to be in the hands of the one with someone who searched for a cure to lycanthropy, let alone a laborer? Surely too many questions are confusing, but Bo cracked the enigma. One must not fear questions. I heard you were going after clues, Miranda said as John was packing. Sorry to worry you, but I won't be late. The desert is relatively empty, so I guess it won't take long. John said. The desert is empty? You don't know how wrong you are, mate. Illander said. And apparently, I am wrong. John turned to Miranda. Just don't do anything stupid. Summon up that fake dragon and cause havoc if it gets dangerous. She said. Oh, I'm glad you are used to my style already. Listen, John, we were thinking that Isha can't stay here. We will take her somewhere else. Mirren joined. Are Sister Zara and Lady Nagla okay with it? Yes. We shall finish our martial exchange and think of someplace to take here. I was thinking of High Rock, Skyrim, or Cyrodiil as places with better weather and green views. Good thinking. By the time you're done, I will be back and head out together. John said, and jumped in his Atronac camel. Not long after, he was riding out of the Citadel grounds. I see you are traveling with 3 beauties. What a lucky man you are, Ilander remarked. You seem more intimate with the elf with a bigger chest rather than her sister. You're speaking of Miranda and Mirren. Those two. Pretty good looking for Altmare, I would say. They're also not rude or haughty. Mirren is a male, John said. You try to hit on him? John smirked. Ebenarm, it was a trap, Ilander said, looking horrified. Exactly, John. I didn't realize it at all. Ilander, it is common for a flat lover to fall for a trap. John, I'm not a flat lover. Most elves are flat, so don't judge me. Ilander, dark elves are not that flat. John, what elves are chopping boards? Ilander, elves, what a sad creation of God. John, my point exactly. There is nothing equal to being a human. Ilander, not Breton though. They mixed with elves and degenerated to be flat as well. John, this is a strong point indeed. Ilander, Argonians are gross too. John, exactly. Do you know that they grow horns from random places? I'm just wondering, how can you put your head on a pillow when you have a horn? Khajiits are so much better. Ilander, I see you're a man of culture as well. John. And the 2 racist men of culture entered the desert while badmouthing every single living being on Tamriel. 2 days passed in the endless desert of the Alakar. The destination of the 2 was obvious, where it all started. Isha's brother was powerful. He made a lot of enemies who later used Isha to lure him out of the Citadel far, where they can perform a dark ritual. Here where the ritual was held. A stone formation in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. The stones looked natural, yet pointy, and by the doing of age, whatever trace left can be meters under the sand. Deserts like this are known to move by the effect of wind, like the waves of sea, except extremely slow. Now to the dare part. Usually, no one can investigate such a place, but not everyone has the extraordinary tools in John's arsenal. John took out Pride and the containment chest, locking the Elder Scroll of Sunday. Checking that there is no one beside Ilander is watching, held his staff and the Elder Scroll. He held the head of the staff to the scroll and channeled a powerful gust of magicka. What are you doing? Ilander senses the unnatural move in the magicka surrounding them and retreated back. Pulling out answers, John grit his teeth as he put his all into his work. As he was done channeling energy through the Elder Scroll, he out the scroll back right away. What he created, however, was something strange. In front of him and in the middle of the stone formation, there was a strange motion in reality that resembled a small vortex of light distortion. What is that? Ilander approached after feeling the situation becoming safer. Temporal flux, John said. And the nun mages call it? Ilander questioned. Time wound. Ebenarm, by using the Elder Scroll, an artifact that exists outside time, John could wound the time. But why would anyone do such a thing as creating a temporal flux? What is it for? Watch this. John took out a random machine from the cube and threw it in the flux. The small machine was made of many screws, small pieces, wires, and a magicka reactor as the core. Once the machine entered the temporal flux, the strangest of scenes happened. Those components making together the machine all became their own pieces separated from the big device. John aimed his staff and pulled the magicka reactor with telekinesis through the temporal flux. The device passed through the temporal flux and returned whole again, save for the magicka reactor, which was in John's hand. Understand now? So you use this to dismantle things without actually take them apart, Ilander said. Correct, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Temporal fluxes are safe places to read the Elder Scrolls without catching side effects. And there's another use that I am doing right now. John said. The temporal flux he created was similar to this one on the throat of the world, only much smaller and weaker. A few hours and this wound will fix itself. John needed this dangerous temporal flux to cast a spell that needs recent records from a world. By casting it on the time wound, it would bypass the rule of recency. This spell is John's Ghost of Time, the master-level mysticism spell he used in the arena to summon version of his opponents to fight for him. This time, he wanted to summon a version of the people who were here years ago and fought on the night when Isha's brother, Zane, was cursed. Pulling these records was a tedious job, but thankfully, Illander knew the exact date of the event, and John didn't have to search around so much. In a few minutes, golden specters started appearing on the stone formation around, circling two other golden specters. It was obvious what it was. Isha, or rather a younger version of her, was there. A tall man holding a spear in each hand with a bunch of golden specters lying around him. A strange trace of magic seemed to be binding them around, and the golden specters on the stone formation were moving their lips, chanting a ritual. Pause. Rewind from a minute earlier. Stop. John gave commands to Pride, which was supporting the spell by itself while floating on its own. Now for the not-so-fun part. John stepped near one of the curse casters whose face was exposed and focused on him. A Ghost of Time may have a good visualization, but no vocalization, so John couldn't hear the spell normally. Instead, he was lip-reading and taking notes of the movements. Lip-reading wasn't his thing, so he had to rewind many times before he got the words of the curse confirmed. After that, he let the record play to the situations unfolding. It was as the people of the Citadel said. Zane turned into a werewolf, and a large one at that. In a fit of his rage, he took down all the opponents in the scariest of scenes. Sadly, the temporal flux was already out of power, as it seems that John's spell has consumed it. Is it over? Illander asked. It is. There are really no secrets with such a spell around. Did you find out what kind of curse that is? No, but I have its chant, John said, looking at the note he just took. In the name of darkness endless, we call upon thee by the right of origin to fulfill our wish and create an object of the seal. Zane, become what you hate most. Curses upon you. Become what you despise most. Curses upon you. Become what you can't bear to be. Part 2. And what is all that supposed to mean? Illander asked. The ritual was rather fast and simple. The casters were also decisive and focused. They bound Zane by a spell that had the base for the curse. They sent mercenaries at him, which were clearly sacrificed to empower the curse. Zane had to kill them, even if he was knowledgeable how the curse worked. And finally, the casters called for the dark entity that cursed Zane. John analyzed. You mean Herson. This is becoming more confusing as it is. Herson considered turning a mortal into a were creature is a gift, not a curse. But were creatures are entitled to Herson and only Herson. That's not a solid argument. Molag Bal created the vampires, but there is a faction of the vampires of Lamy Beelfag. The first vampire who was turned by Molag Bal himself through are at P. Her descendants, and the one she turned carry nothing but hatred towards Molag Bal. Same could be said for a werewolf like Zane who was turned against his will and came to hate Herson who supposedly cursed him. Meaning, the ritual said, in the name of darkness endless. The Daedric princes are indeed made mostly of darkness and negativity, but they are not endless, my friend. The only darkness that is endless is a king. There is no such thing as the Daedric king. Illander retorted. I didn't say a Daedric king. The Daedra are immortal original spirits. Becoming an immortal is becoming a royalty, Chim, but as Daedric princes, the rank of a prince is not the top of the pyramid when it comes to royalty. Am I right? John remarked. I know your words make sense, but on a mortal level. What makes you think there is a king? My less educated friend, I was just being deep with you. There is no such a term we know of as a king on the ranks of royalty, Chim. What I'm talking about is an original spirit that is not Daedra or Edra or anything equal to a prince. Your red guards know him as a Kel, an endless hunger that drives Satak, the first serpent, to devour itself endlessly. Once it eats its heart, it dies, then be reborn as Sadakal, a new snake in which spirits would come to know themselves. Outside Hammerfell, this story is known as the story of Anu and Padme, and how they evolved to create the Orbis. The king you know as a Kel is the one we know as Sithis. Sidhis Sigii, the dread father, the spirit of Padme, darkness endless and void everlasting. John said his speech as he showed the text of the curse to Illander. This is, if what you said is true, then there's a very dark cult involved here, right? Illander said with a pale face. John, however, shook his head. It is no strange to worship Sidhis. The Argonians and the Hisdu, the Dark Brotherhood and the Morag Tong are the same. Sadikul, the Redgar deity, is a combination of Sidhis and Annuil. The problem is that by contacting Sidhis, you are basically open for all manners of Daedric effects. Think of it, the whole Daedric Prince's gang are not even as anything as Sidhis despite being kind of his blood. This means he could do everything they can, and that includes cursing a mortal like Zane with lycanthropy. Rupka's mercy. The two were indeed on a big discovery. Finding the source of the curse was certainly a big feat, judging by how much did Zane struggle to find out the truth, which he died without knowing. If only we had you 2 years. Illander was vexed by how could one man do what a whole organization could not. But nothing can be done even after finding out the truth. Zane is dead, and the Citadel of Ebenarm has lost the top candidate for a Battlelord position, the Spear Battlelord seat, or even the War Chief seat. It is not over. John, however, had another opinion. His labor is still on, and it is connected to Isha. Things didn't even begin, and now Sidhis is involved. What do you mean? Illander asked. This investigation is not over. There are people out there who pass down a ritual to contact Sidhis to the traitors of the Citadel that curse Zane. There's also the matter involving Isha and how Bothia coaxed her into 2 years of labor. You are a troublesome taskmaster, Krylin. Where is it you want to go next? Known places of Daedric cultists around the Alakar Desert. I hope we are not far from any. Ahaha. Illander laughed out loud and took out a map, showing it to John. The map was full of red dots and different symbols that almost reached 100. Pick a cult. You're kidding. This is supposed to be a desert. The Alakar Desert is the best place to nearly hide a city if you want. So, what sort of cult you're interested in? Goodness me. Let's start with Bothia and look for a man called Hafiz. A few days later, the search of John and Illander ended up through many cult caves, hidden tombs, open worship places, and more. Sometimes they were allowed in with no problems, sometimes they had to knock down a few teeth to get answers. After searching for a while, they found the old man known as Hafiz, but it was not what they hoped for. My great-great-grandfather has lived for 200 years. He was quite energetic and strong until the last time I saw him. Once he came from the last trip, it was as if age has caught up to him in the matter of a few days. He lost his sight, hearing, and can barely say anything now. The one who received them was one of the descendants of Hafiz, a middle-aged man. I understand. John nodded. Come on, Krylin. What makes you believe this old man is 200 years old? What makes you believe any of all that? Illander said. His service is no longer needed. He is of no use to Bothia anymore, so she will let him die. John could pretty much tell the situation. In the game, something like that happens, and certain prophet of a Daedra loses her privilege of being able to see visions sent by her mistress because her role was over. The two kept asking the descendant of Hafiz of any information he knew about Bothia and her deceiving laborers, but the man denied that. Lady Bothia is the deceiver of nations, not individuals. Her schemes are more political or catastrophic rather than deceiving people for fun. Shiagarath, Clavicus Vile, and Molag Bal are the ones who do that sort of things. It doesn't mean that the other Daedric princes do not lie. They all do, but their goals align with their spheres of power. Lady Bothia is a warrior prince. Warriors do not use petty lies, but rather conspiracies and tricks to conquer, as I said. And that was another suspect crossed for now. The two men left with a load of things to analyze. Herson is not the one who cursed Zane, and Bothia did not really deceive Isha, as Isha's purpose was to return her brother. We are out of clues, John said. By the results you achieved, I say you did your best. Illander said. No, that was nothing. I have a gut feeling that there's more to it. We just need guidance. I tried to clairvoyance, but as good as I am in mysticism, as shitty as I am in divination. Well, I'll sleep for now and leave the night for you two brood, Krylin. Good night. Good night. The two were camping in the desert at night. Illander returned to the tent, and John remained sitting beside the fire, gazing at the bright stars on the flawless night sky. Stars he knew off and stars he didn't study yet. John couldn't help but call out the bored Nefertiti. "Where have you been?" he asked. "Making friends. In the desert." "Yes, human. There are cats in the desert, too." "Right, the sand cats. Pretty cute fellas." "And so, you managed to make them acknowledge you as Her Meowjesty the Cat Supreme?" "It is called Cat Empress. You are really intending to conquer the world, aren't you?" "Naturally. Don't tell me you're going to use the Numidium." "We are calling it the Fluffidium. I think I might know a couple of dwarves who may get grumpy after hearing that. Anyway, when do I expect the promised Liberation Day?" "We keep delaying it. Sunshine has a daily nap she can't miss, and Onyx is adopting a human family. We delayed it a few more years." John couldn't help but laugh. This invasion has been delayed so many times already, to the point that it may not happen in this era. The important this is, did your agents report anything related? "Not really, but I have the allegiance of every feline kind in the desert. If you're looking for anything in particular, they can help us, human." "How fluffy of them. Thank you in advance, then. I'll let you know once I need anything." Nefertiti went back to her world domination plan, and John sank in thinking once again. His information network has spread to a scary degree by now. Nefertiti was amazing and all, but what is also amazing is his Titan-born bloodline power, Beastmaster, and the blessing of the Guardian Dragon. His affinity with felines is so high, along with Nefertiti having an extension of his soul. She is freely using that power to get along with most cats as long as she makes them submit. John can also talk to those cats and listen to them, even if he doesn't do so most often. Anyway, the important thing is that he can monitor the Alucard Desert now thanks to this. But he still doesn't have a destination to go after. While he was thinking, his eyes closed, and he slept without realizing. In his sleep, he was standing in Winterhold near the shrine of Azura. He looked up to the large statue of Azura, and it moved its head, looking down at him. "When you corrupted my star, a spark of my power was stolen and hidden in the abyss. Seek out my spark and set it free." "Oh, in the abyss, secrets and worlds meet. Seek the abyss among the sands, a gate guarded by two, one that always lies and one that does not. Oh, time is your only ally. With it, you will survive the abyss. Oh, P4 Tray 0N. Goal, 6 extra. Pat Rayon. com/Eldokmeezy. Remove. PayPal, plus $10 equals extra. PayPal, me/Eldokmeezy. Extras by votes, 5,000/8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. Chapter 441. Answers Between the Sand 4-5. Double Chapter. Daily plus 3/6 monthly. Part 1. A gate that has two guardians, one that lies and one that tells the truth. Illander verified what John asked about. "Yes, that was in my vision." John confirmed. "Your vision of a big-tit statue of Azura telling you to go there." "Indeed. Why are you the one who gets to see a big-tit Daedric prince in your dreams? Is that what is really upsetting you right now?" "Yes." "Focus. Do you know any place with that description?" John asked with an annoyed face. "Of course." Illander answered naturally. "Nearly every Redguard know about that." "Oh." John didn't expect such an answer. "The tale of Cyrus, the hero of Strozmkai. It speaks of a man who stood against the imperial occupation of Hammerfell during the Tiber Wars in the late Second Era. This man was said to have gone through thick and thin to rescue his sister, only to find himself leading a rebellion, slaying a dragon, and fighting a necromancer from a sload. He then assisted his sister to become the governor of Strozmkai and brought Tiber, Septim himself, to the table of negotiations." Illander said, "I know of the tale of Cyrus the Redguard." John nodded. And how could he not? Cyrus is a protagonist of one of the games known as the Elder Scrolls, Redguard. John may have read the lore of the game, but he didn't play it, so he wasn't really that expert on the detailed story of Cyrus. So, what does our gate guarded by two guardians have to do with Cyrus? John asked. The most important goal of Cyrus was the rescue of his sister. She was sold by the slowed necromancer to the Daedric prince Clavicus Vile, and her soul became trapped in his realm of oblivion. Cyrus went after her, but he had to go past a game set by the Daedric prince, and that is the gate you are seeking. The Gate of Wish. Is that so? Still, the realm of Clavicus Vile is not our goal. I know, but you're the one who asked. More to that, the Gate of Wish is said to exist in many places, and one of them is here in the Alikar Desert, but no one knows where it is. John pondered over the information he was given. Do you have any more information? John asked. No, but there's a book called Ngasta Kvada Kvakis that was written by the necromancer Slode that Cyrus fought. The only problem is that the book is said to be extremely rare and forbidden. Only the richest collectors and some necromancers in the world have it. While Illander was explaining, John took out a book from the cube. Illander walked closer to see the content of the book. Unless you already have a copy. I had that book for quite a while, but I didn't really read it before. It is written in the Slode language, and it is not really a popular language nowadays. I have a dictionary for that around here somewhere. John murmured as he took out another book and started working on reading the Ngasta Kvada Kvakis. For an explorer, you are really self-sufficient. Where do you get these books, tents, and food from? Illander asked. John looked at him and answered the most vague of answers. Magic. After a few hours of reading the book and checking the dictionary, John came to understand the Slode language to a certain extent. The book speaks of techniques about necromancy and soul trapping. Not anything interesting to me anyway, but I found out about those Gates of Wish. John said, Do tell. The Gates of Wish mainly represent the sphere of Clavicus Vile, which is making deals with mortals and tricking them into extremely bad deals that mostly end up with them on the wrong side of fate. Still, those Gates of Wish can practically take you to any place in the universe as long as you wish for it and choose the right way. Not the Mundus, not Oblivion, not even Etherius, the universe. This is already too broken to be true. John explained. I don't understand the extent of the universe, but does it extend beyond far shores? Illander asked. Far shores is the Redguard afterlife, much like the Nordic Sovngarde. Far shores is just another part of Etherius. The universe extends beyond that. John confirmed, then continued. The Gates of Wish is practically two gates guarded by two Daedra guardians. One always tells lies while the other tells truth. As the Gate of Wish is actually two, one of them leads to where you want to go, and the other leads to certain death. You're not planning to go through that, are you? Illander asked. You are not entitled to do more than just guiding me, Illander. Just lead me to the destination I provide you. John declared his intentions. His mission right now, given directly by Azura, is to reach the location known as the Abyss. The Abyss is not really an unknown realm despite its ominous name. A handful of mages may have heard about it, and John was one, but what was known was merely just myths. Some claim it is a Daedric realm, but John believes it is a realm of chaos. Now that his quest dragged on to the Abyss, there is no point turning tail or showing regret. Nefertiti, does your network have any location on a double gate guarded by two evil beings somewhere across the desert? John asked via telepathy. Nefertiti didn't reply for a while until she reached out to her contacts, then came back with an answer. John took the answer to Illander. Come on, do you want to go to that place? It is bad news. Illander complained. Never thought a Redguard would back down from an adventure. John said, Back down my ass. This place is filled to its brim with undead and mummies. Some old necropolis that was cursed lies there. The Citadel of Ebenarm sends people there periodically to clear the undead that go out of the perimeter, but no one actually ventures in. I see. That's interesting. One more thing. The sand of that place is called the dead sand. No living can walk on it. Like quicksand, it is quicksand but cursed to swallow you no matter what you did. Getting out of normal quicksand is nothing special, but the dead sand numbs body and negates the magic. No one can survive it other than the undead. Fine, take me to the edge of the dead sand. John had to at least go to the place and check it out. After a day, John found the so-called dead sand area. It wasn't only the undead that crawled over it, but many monsters that can be said to be very dangerous too. Assassin beetles and giant scorpions were merely a starter of a show, as the main predator around here was the sand ants, a gigantic race of ants with the size of a dog. To make things worse, flying over the dead sand seemed to be a suicide mission, as the magica above it was clearly unstable and very dangerous to navigate through. Also, there was a large cloud of sandstorm blocking the view inside, and flying blindly is conjuring death. As you can see, this place is hopeless, Illander said. Indeed, I never imagined such a danger zone to exist. It is as deadly as a blizzard storms that keep raging over the mountaintops in Skyrim. John nodded. If that's the case, then let's head back already. We have been going around for a week by now. No need. I have an idea. John started summoning a number of Atronax from various elements and shapes. He then let them free to charge on the dead sand. Normal Atronax started losing body parts on a rapid base and disintegrated fast. Potent Atronax were a bit more resilient, but had the same fate as the normal ones. Greater Atronax were resistant to some extent as long as they have magica inside them, but the magica was being drained rapidly. Flying Atronax couldn't maintain their positions and fell from the sky. Truly a cursed place, but I guessed as much, John said. From what he saw, the undead energy in the dead sands is powerful and can destroy anything other than undead. Still, there were secret passes between the sand that resembled a maze. To cross them, one must know the place too well and risk fighting head-on with the monsters without magic. Or one can just use necromancy. John aimed the cube to the side and pulled out a large being. How is going, Wrath? Maz. Tar. Oh. I told you not to speak, didn't I? John was annoyed by the loud voice of the sin of Wrath, Odakuro. During the past few months, Odakuro was being kept in a pool of magical ingredients to enhance it. Now, the 4 meters tall bone samurai was having a shade of red on its normal brownish color. Equals 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 equals. Wrath / bone, samurai Odakuro. Sin. Howl of Wrath. Raise undead evolving. Equals 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 equals. From the looks of it, Wrath's ability over undead is getting better. On the other hand, Illander was dead silent. Please don't mind the appearance. Isha and I liberated this poor giant from the Shivering Isles, and now it serves me. John said, not wanting to admit the fact that he is a necromancer in front of a member of the Citadel of Ebenarm. Illander nodded in silence as he watched Odakuro move forwards by John's instructions. Despite its size, the bone samurai walked nimbly and arrived at the edge of the dead sand. With a deep grunt coming from its inside and the sound of the bones shivering and reacting to the undead energy, Odakuro raised his blade and stuck it in the dead sand. Right. See. Oh. Part 2. Nothing was felt at first, but a second later, the world rumbled and the dead sand moved with ripple. It is happening. It is happening. John suddenly became excited. What is happening? Illander, on the other hand, panicked. Look, John pointed out at the dead sand in front of Odakuro. Just like that, hundreds of undead were moving to the surface of the ground. The undead started to line up in packs in front of Odakuro, and John walked beside it. He held up Pride and cast Necrostruction, the spell that lets him reform the undead. Necrostruction was before Necroconstruction, but I found that merging it sounds cooler. The next scene was magical in both looks and actuality. The packed-up undead started to shatter, fall, then get joined up together. Odakuro was raising more as its master kept reforming them. Those undead were those who died in this cursed sand for generations, and now they are being used to invade the place, to turn those who were buried under the sand to the tool of invading it. This was a perfect example of bad karma returning on this place. In a minute, John was done with the construction. Necrostruction, an absurd spell indeed. Now that I think about it, was this the same feeling Moses had when he split the sea by the power of the Lord? The bone path John created on the dead sand felt like splitting the sea indeed. All those undead were now broken and put back together, forming such a dreadful work of dark arts that made the hearts shiver. It needed a lot of power and strength, and thankfully John didn't lack both. Illander was covering his head with his hands from the absurdity of the situation. Krylin, just who the fuck are you? The dead sand region was covered with a large cloud of sandstorm that blocked all the view from outside and inside. Proceeding slowly was the safest option available. Weren't you saying you're not going in the dead sand? John asked. Shut up. I can't let you take the credit alone after coming this far. This is the only place in the desert no one in my generation ever visited. If I do this, I will be famed for life. Illander tagged along for that reason. Am I still being charged? John asked. Of course. Regards. The bone bath extended on the dead sand. John walked, and Illander followed, while Odakuro kept raising more undead for John and casually walking on the dead sand. They were completely breaking through the desert on a rapid pace to the point, and before they know it, they were facing traps of various kinds. These are man-made, recent, and very deadly. I knew this place is not so simple, John said while making preparation for a real battle. He entered the cube and came out with his best gear. The ebony mail, the ebony blade, Ozidal's evil fists, boots of the apostle, ring of necromancy, Krylin mask, pride, greed, greater amulet of Talos, and a lever-action crossbow enchanted with wind damage. So this is how Krylin looks like. Like it. You look a bit armed to the teeth. Yeah, I go over geared when I have a gut feeling that I am about to go through a big fight. Are you okay with your gear, or do you want anything more? I am a junior saber battlelord. I am always in a top condition for a fight. Well said, if it gets hairy, I'll bring more allies. Other than that, and his undead, Illander pointed at Wrath. You chose to follow me, so take my advice this time. We are in uncharted lands. Yes, what's your plan then? Cover the left. I cover the tight. Wrath will advance on his own, an open path for us with his undead taking the traps. The two made an advancing strategy and kept pushing forward. The result was them slowing down, but the bone path kept extending steadily. The sandstorms around them intensified steadily until John became fed up with it. I'll take this shit down. Lock Vakor. Sky Spring Summer. Even though John didn't want Krylin to be associated with the Thursday he had no choice now. The clear skies shocked the heaven, and the storm couldn't stand against him. In a matter of seconds, it settled down. What was that? Never mind. Illander was about to shout at John for scaring him, but he looked behind John and pointed. John turned around and... Shit, they were surrounded. A horde of undead consisted of archers stood on all sides. They were accompanied by mages that were obviously necromancers. The numbers seemed endless, and the undead were strong. The necromancers were also equipped with special boots and goggles to walk on the dead sand and through the storm. The only advantage now was that they were surprised senseless seeing the storm fall apart. This won't last long. The storm will return in a few seconds. Kill as many necromancers as you can. John rashly commanded while loading his crossbow. Nefertiti kill, and a sudden battle broke out. John shot down a necromancer and called Nefertiti. She appeared in her oversized form and charged at 3 necromancers in a second, displaying the performance of the apex predator. Carry me, wind. Illander was right on their heels and unsheathed his sword Windshear and his shield Targe of the Blooded. He jumped at the undead walking on their heads and skulls while cutting down any strong zombie in his path until he reached a necromancer and beheaded him. Wrath guarded John's back and held its oversized spear. Once the enemies drew closer, it unleashed all the rage within. Grah! The howl of wrath, Wrath's skill, was unleashed like a storm on any and everything in its path, like a horizontal red tornado bringing nothing but destruction. What the fuck? Who are those intruders? A Dunmare necromancer retreated away while shouting to his ally. Don't ask me. We need to retreat and hold the line. Our ambush had failed. Someone must report this. As they were planning to counter, a crossbow bolt hit one of them right in the head. Pentakill, John shouted while loading the next bolt. The necromancers were being hunted on a rapid pace, and the undead around them started to fall on an even faster pace. In a matter of a minute, all was over. No necromancer survived. Good kills, Illander said. Yeah, but look around. All the zombies are gone. Only the necromancers' bodies are left. John remarked. Which means all those undead were summoned. This is quite a skill those necromancers had. My thoughts exactly. 20 necromancers, and there were over 500 zombies. If one can summon 25 creatures, then they are adept necromancers. Yet they were quite sloppy for adepts. They're trained on necromancy as a professional practice, or maybe as a faith. John said, which means those are just foot soldiers. Illander continued the conclusion for John. Quite organized, disciplined tactics. Resources, their gear looks well maintained, unlike common witches or warlocks. Occult, one not on your map. The Citadel of Ebenarm understands Daedra worshipping, and we are enemies to all Daedra, but we don't tolerate necromancers, vampires, or war creatures. Krylin, we must report that. Too late, look over there. John pointed to the south where they were heading. Shit. Illander detected the presence John detected and aimed his shield forward with his saber on his shoulder. John also switched to the ebony blade. A mountain appeared as the storm was still settling in the distance, and on it, more than just 20 necromancers appeared. They were not just mages like the small patrol from before, they were necromancer knights, necromancer assassins, and necromancer adepts. This is one big-ass cult. The strongest one of them is that blade's master, an orc. He's all yours, Krylin. The rest are what scares me now. Any plan? Necromancers always fought in numbers in terms of individuals and summons. The best course of action is to kill the head of the snake. Told you we have allies. John, however, was confident. This is an all-out fight now. Intruders, surrender yourselves. Where you stand is an ancient battleground and thousands upon thousands of dead wait to be awakened. Once that is that, nothing will save you. The Orc Blade Master, who seemed to be the leader of the Necromancer's cult, spoke. We accept your surrender. John replied. I said we accept your surrender, you dumb orc. Get your ass down here and let Daddy are you in chains and trade you for a wanted reward. John kept provoking the orc. Sigh, he's a fool. Shoot them down. The orc ordered, but didn't let his guard down as he just witnessed the strange group annihilate the ambush team he sent earlier. John's power was well hidden by the effect of greed that kept John's aura from spread, but once John saw the archers among the necromancers point their arrows, he discarded greed in an instant and sent it on the ebony blade, turning it to the ebony glaive. By the second the volley of arrows was shot, John swung his glaive by its side, supporting it with his tyrant aura. A strong gust of wind was carried with the sheer power of the swing and met the coming arrows, rendering them all useless. Impossible! The Orc Blade Master shouted, not believing that the large man in ebony armor was this powerful. Still, it wasn't over just yet. Fusaroda! Without further delay, John shouted the unrelenting force that hurled at the arrows falling from the sky. The arrows were pushed back towards the cultist in a chaotic but deadly manner. Shit! Take cover. Mages, barriers. Rituals, heal. Warriors, prepare for engagement. The cultists dealt with the situation professionally. Still, John smiled, mocking their useless tactics. Haha. Yes, yes, move around like ants. Jax, Zykel, come out and have fun. P4, Tray 0N. Goal, 6 extra. Pat Rayon. com/Eldok Measy, remove. PayPal, plus $10 equals extra. PayPal, me/Eldok Measy. Extras by votes, 5,000/8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. Chapter 442. Answers Between the Sand, 6, 7. Regarding the power ranking issue, I know it is affecting the novel's views, follows, and comments. I mostly care about comments. But the content team of WebNovel has reached out and explained that there's a big update coming up. I'm looking forward to it. Also, double chapter, daily plus 4/6 monthly chapter. It wasn't a rare sight to have a chaotic battle in the Alucard Desert. Monsters, undead, warriors, or even Daedra. In this part of the world, all is fair. Even some mages come here and to try the master-level spells they are working on. However, as popular as the Alucard Desert is, it is a danger zone known worldwide, and the Dead Sand is one of the most infamous spots. Unknown to the world, the Dead Sand area was now having its own fun as two groups started fighting each other. John Dare and his summons, as well as Illander of the Citadel of Ebonarm, against an unknown cult of organized necromancers. Get them. The necromancer's leader. Jax, Zykel, come out and have fun. John. Mortal. Zykel. Boss. Jax. What the fuck is that? Illander. Yet, despite the Alucard Desert is a chaotic place, some may have to look for another standard for the adjective chaotic from now on. It was simply an open war. Zykel's large body covered the sky above John as the Daedric Titan glared at the enemies of his summoner. Jax's towering height covered John's right side with a large axe emitting a flaming aura. Illander, the Redguard warrior, covered John from the left side. Nefertiti, the shadow fairy, blended in the shade of the enemies ready for signal. Wrath, the bone samurai, stabbed his blade in the sand planning to raise up an army. John stood in the center of the formation with the ebony blade and the elder staff Pride. The staff's head was glowing with a strong spell that seemed to have been evoked and overcharged for a long time now. Illander and Jax defend me. The rest wreak havoc. John, yeah, the rest plus Jax. Mind explaining something first? Illander, kill now, ask later. The warriors of the Necromancer cult was descending from their ground, charging at John with the lead of their orc commander. John's eyes were fixated on them, as he could see how their people worked. Many of the warriors clearly used the baleful aura, an advanced form of the dark aura. The assassins took the flanks and seemed to be ready to get into ranged combat, while the mages were preparing magic formations. Breaking those people would be easy with the skill set of John and his team. First, Zykel ignored everything and headed directly to the mages. Too many women over here. Ha ha ha. The perverted Daedric Titan was planning to chew on some mortal females. The second move was Nefertiti's. She targeted the assassins and conjured a small number of shadow atronachs. The third was Wrath, as it took its blade out of the dead sand. A legion of undead formed a defensive wall to block the warriors. As the three teams of the Necromancer's cult were intercepted, they didn't stand idly by and watch themselves being countered at. Armor on, the orc leader shouted, and his followers performed a spell. Many bones were conjured and started covering them like armor. The spell was simply called Bone Armor. Once they came into contact with the undead of Wrath, their weapons extended into the shape of a scythe. The spell was also called Death Scythe. These were advanced necromancy spells. From the sides and the back, the mages and the assassins started using spells like Flame Skull, that fires a skull of poisonous flames, Blastbone, that conjures a suicidal exploding skeleton that chases its target. They, of course, as necromancers, use the regular conjuring and reanimating of the undead. They are vicious indeed. John smiled and let loose of the spell he was preparing. It was a normal adept level chain lightning spell, but after being amplified, it flew over the warriors, taking some of them down in the process and attacking the ritualists in the back. The spell was so powerful to the point it broke their bodies to disintegration and charred some black. Still, a certain imperial female mage managed to completely stop John's spell from killing all the ritualists that heal the ranks. Found you. Targeting the healers would always bring out the big shots that are hiding among the enemies. If such a powerhouse is dragged out early, it will be dealt with instead of leaving it to wait and scheme. Without waiting, John took out the lever-action crossbow and fired a full magazine of bolts at that Imperial mage. Tanya, the orc warrior, noticed John's tactic and tried to stop him. He tossed up a large shield, intercepting most of John's bolts. Annoying. Seeing the orc stopping him, John felt that he underestimated the enemy's skill, but he was still successful. 2 bolts managed to injure the Imperial mage severely. Mages are weak to archers. That's why John would always switch to a ranged weapon if he wants to get rid of a mage as soon as possible. Still, that mage is only injured and can heal in less than a minute if she was protected. Jax, give me the orc's head. John, on it. Jax, Illander, you get me that Imperial. Zykel will assist you. John, you mean this flying dragon? Illander, don't worry about him. Zykel is a Daedric Titan, but he is also a fellow man of culture. John, Illander sighed with no further arguing. Staying with John is interesting but mind-consuming. Every time he thinks he'll get used to it, things turn rather weirder. Still, now is the time to get things right. Once the leader of mages falls, her staff will break and the barrier she made will fall as well. Zykel will annihilate the mages from the point and the fight will be won. His shield will be getting in his way, so he put on his back and took out his second saber. Krylin, what? Are you familiar with the term whirling dervish? The mystic dancers? Close. Illander said, while taking off his helm that obstructs his vision. The whirling dervishes of Clandashah are different than the ones you know. Watch what I do. As he said so, Illander charged at the enemies with his silver eyes glowing in cold light. A bloodline. John wondered as he prepared to support Illander with magic. Illander was indeed using a bloodline ability that made his movements fast and accurate. He would jump and step on the heads and shoulders of the undead, summoned by Wrath, and finally arrived at the front line. John couldn't help but notice the maniac smile of Illander as he fell right between the enemy warriors, and in a blink of a second, heads and arms started to fly around. Illander was whirling around himself like a whirling dervish, but instead of using a tenura, large skirt, he was using his swords and in a very dangerous and martial fashion. Doaim. John was taken aback by the strange movements and decided to cast a healing rune that could follow Illander around just to be safe. Not far from Illander and his precise fight, Jax was having one-on-one fight with the Orc Blade Master. His axe was carrying fire, and his hoof was causing drum sounds and fire pools everywhere he steps. Jax was a true arsonist and overwhelmed the orc in a few exchanges. Away from them, Wrath was facing a large number of assassins that tried to hijack the control of John over the gigantic undead. Control it. It will be ours. The Lord will reward us. Once we take it, those undead will turn as well. Thinking too early of their victory, some assassins thought of Wrath as nothing but a large undead that can move slowly, judging by its dull speech. A Wilo kill you. Wrath was enraged how they underestimated him. In a blink of an eye, he disappeared and appeared behind them. Shit. Mistaking Wrath for a warrior-type undead is the trick of its appearance. Wrath is an assassin, and his traits were chosen carefully by John. At that time, a few death scythe spells penetrated his armor from the back. Ianoiining. Wrath turned to the assassins that were too insignificant for him to care about and finally unleashed his rage. Ruohair. Wrath let go of his skill, Howl of Wrath. As if John was shouting, a thundering sound from the inside of Wrath's skull and was unleashed like a shock wave, destroying the bodies of the close living enemies and making those who resisted fall into a state of hysteria. For an independent sin like wrath, his growth was clearly notable. Now, the battle was tilting for John's side. Illander soon freed himself from the melee fight and charged at the mages all by himself. His speed and evasion were top-notch, and nothing could even touch him. "Stop him!" the Orc Blade Master shouted. "What do you think you're looking?" Jax wasn't pleased with his opponent looking away and attacked with anger. Illander evaded the rear guards and cut their necks as he arrived at the Imperial female mage who was using rending flesh to heal herself. "Hey, bye." His first sword slash got her arm as she tried to defend with anything she has. His second attack took her head. Now, the Orc Blade Master seemed to have fallen desperate as he blasted the land beneath him with a stomp and retreated away to kill Illander. Nefertiti disappeared from her place and arrived at Illander, then teleported him away from the center of the enemy's retreat line. "Damn it, kill that mage." The orc became frustrated as he pointed at John. Hee, is it that easy?" John couldn't help but mock. Still, he was surprised by what happened next. From both his sides, two thin presences moved with swords at hand. Two assassins, two high-ranked assassins. So the necromancer cult had that level of assassins as well. John was surprised, but only for a second. By the next second, he was holding the two assassins from their faces as the evil chains of Azadil's evil fists were holding them like snakes. Shit, the Orc Blade Master didn't think that John is not only a terrifying mage, but a warrior as well. John wasn't remorseful at all and tightened his grip over the heads of the two assassins. They screamed and quivered, but to no avail. A few seconds under John's hand pressure, and squish, squish. Their heads exploded with a lot of brain matter everywhere. Sigh, what a nasty habit. John shook his head as he cleaned his hands and eyed the Orc Blade Master. It was an overwhelming victory. The necromancers were all hunted down like ants. The Orc Blade Master was no longer able to do anything but to issue his last order. Retreat. Part 2. The mountain was steep and high, and flying over it was impossible even for Zyko because of the Magicka disturbance in the Dead Sand area. John's next option was to give chase to the necromancer cult that retreated on the mountain narrow path. "Are you all right?" John asked. "I am. Where is everyone else?" Illander asked. "The enemies retreated, and the others went back where they came from. So you're walking around with an army all the time, and we let you into the Citadel. Dude, when it comes to actual magic combat, I am a conjurer more than anything else. Summoning armies is kind of my thing." Ebenarm. The two spoke while walking the mountain path. This mountain is uncharted, but it seems like there is a small mountain range inside the Dead Sand region. "Never did I think that we will find necromancers here." Illander said. "They were good too, but not strong. If they existed here for 10 more years, we may have faced an arch-necromancer instead of masters and experts." John remarked. "True. Let's track them. The road on the mountain is safer than the deadly Dead Sand." Before he could go further, John received telepathy signal from inside the cube. "What is it?" He replied to only find Wrath requesting something from him. "Is that so?" "Fine." John agreed. "What is it?" "Wrath wants some Dead Sand. It seems the curse on it will accelerate his growth." "Do what you must, but hurry." John indeed was hoping for Wrath to grow and be more powerful. The Sins were picky about the material that makes them grow, so it was a rare chance indeed. John stored a large amount of the cursed sand in his cube, enough for Wrath to submerge himself in them. That done, the two young men continued their path until they reached a large cave entrance. On the road, some traps tried to stop them, but it was nothing interesting. In the cave, a huge gate blocked their path. John tried to detect the space and teleport through it, but it was protected by a dark blessing, probably from the Daedra this cult worships. Still, it was physically breakable. John gathered as many bones as he could and made a mound of it in front of the gate. Illander silently watched as John used Pride to cast a spell on the mound of bones. It was necrostruction, and John had a certain shape in mind. A battering ram? An undead battering bloody ram? What a nice way to describe it. I thought only your undead follower was the necromancer. You are one as well. Illinder asked with disdain. HM? This spell is alteration, but it works on bones. Oh, I see. John completely avoided the question of him being a necromancer. Sure as hell a member of the Citadel of Ebenarm wouldn't be happy with necromancers, especially with the long, bloody history between the Red Guards and the undead. Not everyone is as open-minded as Isha anyway. Anyway, the battering ram was ready, and it was basically an undead creature. It didn't need anyone powering it, but it wasn't really portable. Boom, 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 crack. The skull-head ram kept knocking on the gate with all the might in the world. John reinforced it with magic to make the damage output higher, but it seemed the cultists were desperately trying to support the gate on the other side. Still to no avail. After a couple of hours as John and Illinder were resting, the gate became too badly damaged and its structure crumbled piece by piece. John could see holes where the ram head was striking. He took out a few flasks of poison gas and passed them through the door, making them explode. The ones on the other side could no longer withstand the attack and retreated. The enchantment on the gate is broken. Who will do the honors? John said. That would be me. Illinder said as he took out Windshear and imbued it with magicka. The blade's enchantment was activated and the wind danced around the blade. With a wave of his sword, a blade of wind was launched and the gate was broken to splinters. That's satisfying to watch, John said while taking the lead. The cultists behind the door were all wounded and dying. John walked in, and they all knew their end was at hand. I see. It was weighing on my mind that this is cult settlement, but apparently it is more of a stronghold. It would have been troublesome if there were children, John said. Seeing that John was not attacking on sight, the cultists started to escape into the cave. John wasn't planning to kill them if they were to surrender, but it would take their leader to make such a decision. John walked steadily in the cave until he felt the air temperature change. The cave was open from the other side. Soon, the light at the end of the tunnel was seen, and the two proceeded to it. Shielding their eyes from the light beyond the way caves exit, both John and Illinder halted in their place with dumb looks on their faces. Impossible, Illinder cried. Fuck me dead. John's eyes were open wide as well. This place was no longer what they thought of. It is not a cult hideout or the place of the gates of wish they are after. It was a large valley between the mountains. The valley was wide and could only be accessed by the caves of the mountains surrounding it. In that valley, there were many statues, old buildings, and relics of the past. Towers marked the place 4 cardinal directions, and in the center stood a great building. That great building meant a lot for the two. A building with a square base and a pointy top. In John's past world, this is called a pyramid. Pyramids existed in many around Tamriel as in Morrowind, Elsewhere, Black Marsh, and Hammerfell, but they were not the pyramid. This, however, is completely different from all that. A Yakuden pyramid. Illinder said, the ancient Yakuden pyramid where the 3 Ansei heroes made a covenant with Tuwaka to protect Hammerfell from the threat of the elven necromancers and created the 3 Ansei wards. To Illinder, it was a sacred site related to the history of the Ansei, the sword saints, wielders of the Shihai, the spirit swords, the mythical sword singers. To John, it was a nostalgic memory of his past life, as the pyramid looked identical to the ones in Giza. There was even a stone path with many obelisks on its side. Such a place. It is a legend, a lost legend by Ebenarm. Follow you here, Krylin, was the fortune of my life. Seeing Illinder excited, John could only sigh. This place now is filled with necromancers. What do you think? If they surrender, we will deliver them to the government, and both you and I know what will happen then. John said, you are right. I almost forgot those wretches. If we handed them over to Sentinel, the forebears and the crowns will hear of this place, and will try to seize it for political power. Illinder said, whatever the case, any decision will be for the war chief of the Citadel of Ebenarm to make. Right. The two headed down the valley, and came across the remnants of the necromancer's cult led by the Orc Blade Master. "Surrender yourselves. It is only the two of you." Thinking they could surround John and Illander, the necromancers were desperate to avoid casualties. John simply took out a good axe and threw it at the Orc Blade Master. Reinforced with John's tyrant aura, protection meant nothing. The axe split the head of the orc in half. "Quit bluffing. The reason why you couldn't wait for us to come here was because of this sacred ground. You can't conjure your undead here. Can you now?" John said with a smile. As he said, this valley was indeed sacred ground. "Surrender now, and the citadel of Ebenarm will show mercy," Illander said. As if his words meant the complete opposite, the necromancers panicked with the mention of the citadel. "No, we can't. We must fight." One of the necromancers spoke. "Yes, when they know who we are. We are doomed." Another one spoke. "We won't let them have us. Glory to the Lord." The necromancers were rallied up, fighting with their backs to the wall. The hell? John found it strange. Cornered criminals throw their weapons down when they're offered life for surrender. However, this behavior was completely wrong. John wanted to ask Illander, but the latter was making a grim face. "Krylin, there is no way after this. If what I think is true, then they must die." He said, "Are you sure? I'll give you a hand, but if it is not necessary." "No, I think it all makes sense now. The necromancers, their organization, their skills, they are a small branch from a much bigger enemy of the Citadel. I am positive." "Fine, let's kill them as cleanly as we can." John jumped in the air like a spring and reached a high position. With pride, aiming down, he cast Faraday Cage, surrounding every cultist he detected with a wall of lightning that would kill anyone touching it. Faraday Cage was Lightning Cage before changed based on a reader's request. Also, I know Faraday Cage doesn't exactly work like that. The remnants of the cultists were now under the mercy of John from above and an extremely dangerous sword-whirling dervishes in the middle of their formation. The flight ended with annihilation. The necromancers were almost 500 at the beginning of the day, but were wiped off the face of Nirn by the afternoon. John and Illander walked out after John disintegrated all the corpses with magic. "Can you explain to me now?" John asked. "Let's just see something first." Illander was fixed on seeing something before explaining to John. John followed, and the two stood in front of the Ansei Pyramid. The entrance to the pyramid was on the center of the lost half of its wall. John and Illander climbed easily until the entrance. No traps were detected, but there was a stench of corpses. "Nefertiti, check the place." John asked Nefertiti, who moved through the shadow world, and confirmed no life signals. The only thing she noticed was the Daedric energy from the base of the pyramid and from its top. John rallied the information to Illander, who decided to scout it anyway. Identical to the pyramids from his past life, this pyramid started with a descending corridor, then an ascending corridor appeared shortly. The Daedric presence came from down there, so they took the ascending corridor. Once the corridor was over, it opened up to a great gallery, taking them to two rooms. The lower room was filled with corpses. "Look, those people." Illander was heartbroken. "You recognize them?" John asked. "No, but one look at them tells you that they are warriors." "Yes, indeed." John agreed. Khajiit, Nords, Imperials from all races. Those ones have a strong magicka around them too. It seems suspicious. How did this cult gather strong corpses from all over the world? John and Illander left the room and headed to the upper one, the ritual room. Illander walked in first, and his steps halted. The ritual room was the main quarters for the necromancers now, and their banner was hung on the wall. Illander knew it, but he wanted to show it to John. Once John saw it, he understood everything. He understood why the necromancers refused to surrender. It was because they were doomed anyway. Those who ever follow this banner are sentenced to immediate execution. Even their families get executed with them in some cases. This banner is one of the most cursed banners on Tamriel. The black banner of a red skull and a spine connected to it. The evilest of all cults, the worm cult of Manamarco. The Order of the Black Worm. P4 Tray 0N. Goal 6 extra. Patreon. com/Eldok Measy. Remove. PayPal plus $10 equals extra. PayPal. Me/Eldok Measy. Extras by votes. 5,000/8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. Chapter 443, Shadows Secrets. A double chapter. Daily plus 5/6, monthly extra. Part 1. The Order of the Black Worm, or the Worm Cult for short, is the cult of the King of Worms, Mannimarco. Originally a high elf student in the Sigic Order, Mannimarco got kicked away from the sect because of his questionable actions. Later on, he founded the Order of the Black Worm, contacted Molag Bal, and almost brought the end of the world during the events of the Plane Melt. Ever since that day, Mannimarco was a scourge to everyone on Tamriel and a mark of disgrace to the High Elves of Somerset. His worm cult was treated with all the scorn and hate in the world. Mages were aware of the ideals of the cult, which is based on the free use of magic without restricting something as important as necromancy. The cult always viewed this as its most noble message, but they were a bunch of hypocrites. For that idealism, they broke many rules, killed a lot of innocents, desecrated the tombs of the ancestors, and disturbed their rest. Even arguing that necromancy is just another tool can't be used in their case, as they had no sacred or holy. Necromancy is okay as a summons rather than actual animation, but people wouldn't tell the difference. Some dark magic was allowed to use, but necromancy was still banned for good reasons. Even John, who is also considered a necromancer, kept his practices clear from animating bodies or controlling many corpses publicly. Even with the known existence of the sin of wrath, the bone Surai Odokuro, John would use its bizarre appearance to argue that this is just a powerful inhuman summon he contracted in oblivion. All in all, necromancy isn't acceptable in public, and John only uses it in a number situation, so no one can blame him. The worm cult, on the other hand, has a dark history that can't be just discussed like John's matters. That is why they can't be captured, as it is an imperial decree for all worm cult necromancers to be killed on sight if capturing was not possible. Even the reward of killing them or reporting on them is extremely generous worldwide. Now, those vermin have desecrated the sacred place of all the Redguard sword masters and the followers of the Redguard afterlife deity, Tuwaka. This Ansei pyramid is now nothing but an old ruin filled with corpses. It drove Illander mad with anger as he ripped everything that belonged to the worm cult apart. John didn't stop him and went down to the corpses' room and took them all away. These corpses are all mummified, John said. They have no organs and were dipped in many chemical compounds. They even got enchanted to perform as good as when they were living. Those cultists are abhorrent, but they know what they are doing. Mummification is a technique not exclusive to a single race in Tamriel, but it was different from one place to another. This technique of the worm cult was very efficient and smart. The reason for the mummification is to be able to repeatedly use a single corpse even if it ran out of energy or was damaged. Most reanimated undead become dust after destruction or overuse, but the mummies are created for the purpose of preservation. John was interested in the mummification process and pulled a few notes while examining the corpse, as well as taking the manuals left by the necromancers. There was even a lap to create flesh Atronax, an unsightly undead made of human flesh, resulting in a very ugly golem. The shit here is enough to make you sick for a lifetime, Illander said. True, this is the ugly side of necromancy. John nodded. Is there a not ugly sight? Haven't you seen the sight where we fought undead by undead? I know it is immoral, but when you find yourself venturing oblivion with no one to watch your back, the undead can be a lifesaver like none other. Sigh, I don't want to argue with you about that. I have heard about what the laborers go through, so don't mind me. Thanks. What we do now? John asked. I have to report this, like right now. I understand. However, there is still one chamber left unexplored. The two nodded and returned all the way to the corridor fork. From there, they went down the descending corridor. John wasn't sure what to expect, but as far as he can tell, this place is supposedly under Daedric influence. Why would a place of a deity such as Tuwaka harbor a Daedric presence? The answer was revealed when the two reached the room. It was a large rocky cave rather than a hall or a chamber. From the looks of it, this place was there before the pyramid itself. The layout was weird. At the sides of the room, two statues of large humanoids came out of the cave's wall, towering all the way up to the ceiling. They were not whole, as only the upper half of the bodies were carved with only one arm for each statue. The faces of the statues looked mean, and they had two horns each growing from the sides of their foreheads. The statue on the right had its only arm coming out of its right side, fixed on a part of the cave wall opposite to the entrance of the cave. The statue on the left was in the same position. Looking closely, the two statues looked like they were protecting a double gate, with each hand blocking a single gate. "The Gates of Wish," Illidir exclaimed. "So, it is really here." John walked forward in the cave. It was indeed the gates Azura wanted him to find. Behind them is the damage he caused to Azura's power when he corrupted Azura's star. He opened the book Ngasta, Kvada, Kvakis, and started reading about the Gates of Wish. Ngasta, the slowed necromancer who served Clavicus Vile at some point, was knowledgeable with many things related to Clavicus Vile and recorded a great deal about those gates. To activate the gates, we need a living sacrifice. How typical. We need to align the power source of the gates to the power of the stars in the sky. Tricky. Then we need to figure out which gate is the right one by asking one question only. Spoiler alert, the correct gate is random, which means if it was the left last time, then it can be the right or the left. Now that's a lot of work to cover. John murmured as he started preparing for a way to solve the big mystery. Krylin. "Yes, I must return." John turned towards Illidir and nodded. "Before you go, here is your pay." He handed out a large bag of gold. "Haha, where do you keep such stuff?" "Whatever. I see you have taken all the trouble into account. That's why I told you to arrange your price after the mission. I always attract extra trouble. Sid is Azura and now the Worm Cult. You are a real trouble indeed. Don't worry, I'll ride as fast as I can to the Citadel and bring as many battle lords with me as I can. I assume you won't wait for us and go on with your business. Indeed, as soon as I finish these bloody labors, the better. I bid you farewell then. Thank you, brother. Safe travels and Godspeed." And so Illindir's job was done as he left to bring the Citadel of Ebenarm to the hidden Ansei Pyramid. John was now left alone in the ancient necropolis. Well, not quite alone, are we? Yet a certain voice spoke to him. "Shadow, where the hell have you been?" The unknown spirit that keeps haunting him, the one known as Shadow. "Don't blame me. I have other things to take care of, you know." Shadow spoke as he possessed greed to form a body for himself that looked like a black, slimy humanoid. "Moreover, what in the seven fucks are you doing here?" "A labor." "No shit." "Yes shit." John briefed Shadow of the last few months he missed. "Well, this is bad. Do you really intend to pass that gate to the abyss? Do I look like I have a choice?" John shrugged his shoulders. Shadow fell silent and didn't say much. "Hey, why is a bastard like concern this matter? You are normally an indifferent ass." John was annoyed by Shadow's attitude. "Do you have any idea what the abyss means?" Shadow asked. "The edge of reality, the frontier between the absolute order and the absolute chaos." A very superficial answer. "What do you know of the Shadow?" John narrowed his eyes before answering. According to Zernite Wielder, it is the reflection of possible worlds created by forces in conflict, which are produced by mundane forces such as light hitting a rock, or by more powerful forces such as nations at war, or by space, or even time, especially time. Space and time have shadows. John questioned with a funny face. Worlds have shadows, the multiverse, souls, and basically everything. Shadows are simply everyone's record in the time. You can't live without your shadow, else you will be nothing. Even a multidimensional being like myself have a shadow. Hell, I introduce myself as Shadow. Okay, that's a lot to take in one go. John said, and looked down. You just said multiverse, and something about you being a multidimensional being. A normal world have 4 dimension. 3 for the space, which are the X, Y, and Z axes, and a dimension for the time. There are soul dimensions, astral dimensions, black dimensions, white dimensions, higher and lower dimensions. You will never find an end to those damn things, so don't think about it too much. The important thing is the stronger the being, the more dimensions it can exist in. Sometimes, 2 strong beings can exist in stable dimensions. Like you, John hit the nail on its head. Indeed, I can't exist here as the real me is in the most unstable dimension at the edge of existence. The Daedra princes are the same as me, so they need special methods to walk on this lower dimension. That's why we prefer to send out avatars. The more you talk, the less I understand. What does all this shit have to do with the abyss? You already know the existence of order and chaos. The fragments of them that were used to create this existence are called Anu and Padme. These powers have a source, and that is something higher than them. The Godhead. Higher. What? An existence higher than the Godhead, the collective thoughts of all things. This is the lore beyond the lore. My own creation, call it the Doniverse, Don Universe. Something like the Marvel Universe where all my novels exist together. Have you ever heard about the new? Part 2. Have you ever heard about the new? The new. John thought for a few seconds until he remembered something, but he dismissed it immediately. But looking at what Shadow was saying, John shivered from the thought. Fuck. Who are you? Hee. I am glad you are this perceptive. Now, what is new? John swallowed his saliva. The new is the deification of the primordial watery abyss in ancient Egypt. In other words, the sea of chaos, the most primal form of existence, which from the sun was ripped to create the all-creation. Oh, that's quite the detailed explanation. Now I'll make it easy for you. Think of oblivion and the void as a mainland surrounded by what you know as the seas of oblivion. The abyss is something out of this mainland. Think of it as an archipelago that connects this mainland with other mainlands. Other universes? Bingo. Couldn't you just say, hey, John? This abyss leads outside the orbis through the chaotic forces to other universes? Where's the fun in that? Fuck. John was frustrated by Shadow's teasing. Still, he learns a lot from simply having conversations with Shadow, even though he always ends up with his blood pressure at a critical level. Does this mean I can return to the world I came from, to Earth? John asked a very sensitive question. Through the abyss with your current power? Impossible. You are a being bound to this universe. Traveling through the multiverse is impossible even for many of the Chim. And to Earth of all places. Earth is the most stable world in the multiverse as well as its center and the lowest world. That's why magic can't be used there, even though changes are coming even to Earth. What? Oh, I haven't said my congratulations. Earth is facing the apocalypse. Not that we can do anything. Apocalypse? Don't worry, a hero will rise. Save the day. You know the drill. What the fuck? Just calm down. Hey, John, are you with me? Not aware that he just delivered a massive blow to John's mentality, Shadow kept shaking John using the greed form. It was an hour later when John responded. Fuck you. Oh, he's back. Back my ass. What apocalypse? Nothing to concern yourself with. Unless you are a higher existence and have the ability to send your avatar to Earth, you are of no help at all. W, what about my? To think you are attached to those people even after 18 years of reincarnation, don't worry about them. The apocalypse is not as bad as you think it is. And here is something to cheer you up. If Earth is fucked, all the higher worlds are fucked. Earth is the center of the multiverse, you know? What the? More importantly, you have an abyss to, hey John, he lagged again. Shadow's airhead personality was putting too much pressure on John. An hour later, John returned from the lag looking pale. I don't want to talk anymore. Even John has to take it easy in front of Shadow's level of knowledge. I don't blame you. Many walk in the abyss blind of where they step. While some survive, some don't. I was just doing you a favor. John dismissed what Shadow said and thought carefully. So, the shadow magic, you said, is related to all that somehow. Indeed, as the shadow is also something with its own dimension, it is closely related to the void and the abyss. How so? Don't you see? The shadow can manipulate space and time, the void and the abyss. Didn't Azura tell you that in the abyss, time is your only ally? That basic home meant the abyss is your ally if you managed it well. Manage it. In the abyss, there are resources that handle magic in ways you don't understand. You will see for yourself. John held his head, then brought out a water skin and poured it on himself. Void is space, abyss is time. Earth is having an apocalypse that threatens all the multiverse. Not worried at all. John stood up with clouded eyes and pale face, trying to fix whatever shit is going to rain in him. After a few hours of meditating and getting his head back, John opened his eyes with a bit of peace in them. Nefertiti, what did you find out? He asked. Human, the power source is the top of this strange building. She replied. The top of the pyramid? Well, at least I get to climb one. John said while walking out of the cave under the pyramid to the entrance. He put his feet on the pyramid and walked unhindered all the way up. Unlike how the pyramids during the modern era on Earth are stripped naked of their outer shell, this pyramid was well preserved and every stone had an enchantment. The white marble surely gave a bright appearance to the pyramid from the outside. On the very top, however, the place was crowned with a golden shell and gemstones. In fact, that was a device with a very peculiar enchantment, and from the looks of it, it needed a certain intensity of starlight to operate. Luckily, the sun was setting and the stars will appear in some time. John decided to stay and not think of anything until when the stars are the brightest. Have I told you about? Shut up. At the middle of the night, the golden crowning on top of the pyramid started to react, but it wasn't quite right. The gems need to be aligned with the stars of the sky. John looked around and found the golden crowning made of sectors that could be rotated. Rotating the sectors was easy, but there was a missing gem. Don't tell me those fucking cultists took one to ensure it doesn't work. John cursed. A missing star was indeed a problem, and no matter what gems he has, he needs someone that responds to the power of a star which he doesn't have. Or maybe he does. The Star of Azura. Brilliant idea. Shadow, go home. You are grounded. Just do your thing. Sighing in his heart, John looked up at the sky and searched for a certain star. There to the east was the star he was looking for. Aiming the Star of Azura at that certain star, it started to brighten up along with the Star of Azura. Trapping starlight? That's actually a very advanced trick. I met a certain idiot who used a scroll containing dawn magic on himself. I picked up a few tricks. Well, this technique will surely come in handy in the abyss. How so? That's enough spoilers for your small brain in one day. Yeah, shut up. John's technique of trapping the elements in soul gems. The elements are energies just like the souls, the Ayleid, Heartland High Elves, were the masters of trapping energies in certain types of crystals called the meteoric glass to create mysteries like the Welkin stones and the Varla stones that served as an excellent substitute for soul gems. John was done trapping starlight energy in the Star of Azura, then directed that energy to the missing gem's position. From here onwards, the situation changed in an instant. The whole valley brightened. The decorations on the Ansei pyramid, the writings on the obelisks around the valley, and a road leading inside. Well, this is a beautiful appearance. John looked around inspecting the beautiful place, but sadly there was no time. The stars in the skies are moving, and soon the aligning will end for another 24 hours. Waving his staff, he teleported back to the cave room under the pyramid. Unlike before, the two large statues were now lively stone. The two half-giant statues turned their heads for John as soon as he appeared. In the center of the room, there appeared a stone tablet. John approached it carefully. There were some writings on the tablet in Daedric, which was a very easy language for John. Times. State your wish or not, and you will be crushed. Offer a soul or not, and your soul will be the price. Ask one question for one or not, and you'll be invited forcefully. One guardian lies, the other doesn't. One gate is your wish, the other is your death. What a cheerful traveling agency. Whoops. As John ran his smart mouth, the cave became upset all of a sudden. The two guardians raised their hands and descended within on John. Shadow didn't even bother warning him. Shit. Wood. Whirlwind. John used the whirlwind sprint and dashed away from the reach of the two stone giants pinned on the walls. As he looked back, he saw them grabbing large rocks from the ground. What are you, children? Fucking hell. I wish to access the abyss. As John shouted, the stone giants ceased their attacks. Offer a soul now. Easy. John ran over to the stone tablet and placed a filled black soul gem on it. Knowing the Daedra, they all lust for black souls. The energy of the place settled down as the black soul gem turned to dust. Now the question part. One guard is going to lie. One is going to tell the truth. One question to one guard must be asked to determine which gate of the two is the right one. Thankfully, I watched that movie Labyrinth when I was young. I developed an early crush on black-haired girls because of Jennifer Connelly. Yeah, I've never liked blondes too. I know, Rig. Hey, we're not talking. John ignored Shadow and looked at one of the guardians. Hey, douchebag. If I ask the other guardian which gate is the right one, what will be his answer? John said. The guardian reacted to John's question and opened his mouth for an ancient, deep voice to come out. The left. I see. I'll take the right gate then. It was simple. John didn't even know which guard was lying. This question was going to be answered the same answer by the two. The guardian who tells the truth will say what will the lair guardian say. The lair guardian will say what the other won't say, which is the truth. In both cases, the two answers will be the same, and the right gate is, well, the right gate. Simple. The two guardians cleared the way for John. He took a deep breath and advanced forward to the right gate. Open sesame, and the gate opened. Wow, Shadow applauded. I don't even know how I did it. Well, here goes nothing. And he stepped through the gate. It is kind of pitch black in here. It is normal. After all, you are traveling between the fragments of this world. Perfect. Please tell me I'll have to go through a loading screen once again. On the plus side this time, you are not loading 500 mods on a new technology in its beta stages. True. As the two were arguing, the world around John brightened to find himself in a swampy cave covered with all sorts of crocodile-like creatures. Let's not worry about the rare species then. I like your mentality. P4 Tray 0N. Goal 6 extra. Pat Rayon. com/Eldokmeezy. Remove. PayPal plus $10 equals extra. PayPal. me/Eldokmeezy. Extras by votes. 5,000/8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. Chapter 444, Abyss 1. Crocodiles everywhere. As a series of realms and realities connected together as a large cave, the Abyss felt like a pretty bad place to take a rest. No matter where he went, hostile creatures appeared. Once one of those creatures is killed, it disappears in golden particles, but lately respawns once again. How so? The Abyss is a rift through time and space, a fallen reality that holds many records that keep repeating themselves and react to any new interference like John. These records and memories of the world were just there as a sort of protection to the links between the worlds. All of these recorded pasts and realities are dangerous spots and places that even the strong can't pass easily. The place John came through at first was a marshland with many reptiles. It fitted the description of Black Marsh, the home of the Argonians. At first, It was a horde of crocodiles that John tore apart easily with the ebony blade. These creatures were good against magic and had a good regeneration ability, so the absorb vitality enchantment on the blade was dealing with them quite easily. Sadly, it was impossible to harvest anything in the abyss, as everything is just made of space and time. Growl. Human, no fish here. Why there is no fish here? On the other hand, there was a tragic cat that kept searching the marsh while mounting John's head. Her voice was as tragic as ever. You can eat something preserved. Too salty or too cold. Sadly, there wasn't much John can do. Due to the unstable law of space around him, he can't enter the cube at all, but still, he can take out things and put in things. The reason was that the cube had a more stable space than the abyss. Basically, the cube was its own world, a subworld to the mundus. As a subworld, it can't be more stable than its source. It also can't be accessed easily in a lesser environment. That explains how John is able to do things inside the cube that he can't do outside, like enlarging its space and adding rooms by supply it with magicka, something that is both illogical and impossible in mundus. This matter of the cube proved that exploring the abyss is going to be much more rewarding than what John could think of. But now it was time to focus on the prize. The mission is to retrieve the severed part of Azura's divinity. When John corrupted Azura's star, her power in the star was supposed to return to her, but another being stole it, and it is now sealed in the abyss. Daedric artifacts are parts of their owners. The nearest example to them is the sin artifacts that John created. John may have enchanted these artifacts with magic power, but he used parts of his own soul in the process, creating an extension of his own in them. Severing Azura from her star is like severing John from one of his sin artifacts. It is basically forcing out the soul extension of the owner. It may not sound like a big deal, but losing one of his sin artifacts is a nightmare. He may have done that to Azura, but John didn't know the identity of the one that stole the fragment. It may sound like a pang of guilt, but the labors seemed like a fair punishment for now. Still, John was thrown in the abyss without a clue. Roar. Stupid lizard, give me fish. Nefertiti vented her frustration on a crocodile as she landed on its head, breaking its skull and jaw. The reason why she was frustrated that she can't access the cube as well, and the shadow world does not exist in the abyss, which is after all the shadow of the world itself. That's why Nefertiti can't take a quiet nap in the abyss. As the pair traveled, John came to an idea. He cast Bound on a crocodile and observed the effect. Damn, look at that. I bounded it like a Daedric creature. What does that have to do with fish? And nothing. I can just control the crocodile like a conjured being now. But I don't think I can conjure anything from the abyss once we return to Mundus. I must say it. Stupid human doing stupid magic. Don't care, gimme fish. Okay. I must endure. She is just a teenager now. I'm still proud of her. Jax, some fish here. Yes. Jax was following behind John all the time. Nefertiti and Jax are the only 3 living creatures who entered the abyss with John, but as they were inside the cube, they couldn't stay in there when it forcefully rejects all living things with high-grade souls. Jax, of course, was acting as John's servant during the whole trip. We have been walking for days, Jax murmured. Hours, John corrected him. Really? Jax exclaimed. This is the abyss. No one can tell how time works here. Then how do you tell? John didn't answer. He was thankful to the soul extension gifted to him by the augur, the thing he calls system. It indeed helped him with telling time. The thing is, seconds passed like minutes, and if he strayed too far from Jax, he would feel the other moving slower or faster based on the difference in time. Days passed on them, but the recorded time was merely hours. This is the most confusing experience I ever had. The Shivering Isles and Quagmire were not this dangerous. John said, True, you're in deep shit, my friend. Shadow spoke. Thank you. So, have you figured out any way to navigate in the abyss and find what you're looking for? Not really. I'm busy keeping my head sane amidst all this crap. Here's a quick tip. You need to have a piece of Azura to find another piece of Azura. Seriously? John stopped as he took out Azura's star. I don't particularly feel anything. Even if I made a divination, the time law is flawed around me. Divination spells like clairvoyance need a stable law of time. Detection and divination are the magic that collects information. While detection gathers information through space, divination gathers information through time. For a mystic mage, a place with a messed up law of time and space is hell. Why don't you use the old-fashioned way? Shadow suggested. And that is? Asked the cat. What? Wait. No. I won't let Nefertiti sniff it. Are you mad? Your own risk, then. Shadow said and retreated quietly. Damn it. Hey, girl. See this thing? It is Azura's star. Can you locate a similar thing with the same soul scent? John asked. Nefertiti turned to him with blank expressions. She then shape-shifted into her human form. With a cold glare, she looked at John. Do you think I'm a doggo, Homan? What? Blasphemy. Good, next time ask the cowhead to sniff. Hey, Jax retorted, but was ignored. John sighed and went down on one knee in front of Nefertiti. Listen, Nefertiti, you are Shadow Cat, the Shadow Cat. One of a kind. Right now, this place is called the Abyss. It is a place with a similar structure to the shadow world that only someone like you can navigate in. Do you see how awesome and important you are? He said. Umph. I expect a lot of fish in return. She said as she snatched away Azura's star and walked away. Fine, whatever you want. John couldn't help but rely on her in this kind of situation, but Nefertiti seemed really rebellious. Don't worry about her. I'm not worried. They just grow up so fast. John said with a nostalgic face. You're hopeless. It wasn't long until Nefertiti found a way out of the Abyss's first layer. Even though 5 hours have passed on the system screen, John can swear he felt them like 5 days. The way out of the Abyss was a cave at the end of the maze. It looked quite out of place. These caves are the real Abyss, the islands of the archipelago on the Sea of Chaos. Safe zone if you wish to rest. Shadow said. Finally, tired from the tense sensation during the journey, John collapsed on the cave's wall. Hey, Shadow, what do you think the Order of the Black Worm was using the Gates of Wish for? John asked, obviously to access the Abyss. Come on, even I wouldn't want to enter the Abyss after learning its nature. What makes you think those third-rate mages can do in the middle of the Abyss anyway? Unlike you, most of those who enter the Abyss have targeted locations or get guided to one. Is that so? What do they use? Look over there. Shadow guided John further inside the cave. It was a barely lit underground cave with green and yellow glowing mushrooms illuminating it. Other than the mushrooms, there was crystals coming out from some parts of the cave walls. These crystals had various colors and qualities, but John recognized them in an instant. Meteoric glass. Meteoric glass is a variety of ethereal fragment. The glass is crystalline and comes in various colors. It is prized for being magical in nature and highly enchantable. The Aleids, known for harnessing ethereal fragments, use the glass to create artifacts like Welkin stones and Varla stones. Sky shards were believed to be shards of ethereal magicka that carry the essence of Nirn. They are sometimes linked to Lorcan or Anu. When properly cultivated, meteoric glass crystals are able to grow and multiply. The Aleids were only beginning to cultivate the material when they were wiped out by the Alessian slave rebellion. Now in front of John was a colony of those rare goodies. He remembered when he trapped the starlight energy in Azura's star to activate the Ansei pyramid, and when Shadow told him that this trick he learned will turn out to be useful at some point in the Abyss. This was because of the properties of the meteoric glass that allow it to absorb all kinds of energy. Now, this colony of meteoric glass looked so beautiful in the eyes of John that his head overheated from the number of ideas that he can use all that stuff for. You need to hold your horses? Why? Not all the crystals in that crystal colony is suitable for use. Some are just bad quality. TSK, you always bring me the awful news. You welcome. Just like a coral colony, These wild meteoric glass colonies grow in Aetherius, the void, the abyss, and some places in oblivion. They were indeed hard to harvest, but not impossible. John held greed over the colony and let it flow in a liquid state. Through it, he could feel the difference in quality between certain crystals of the colony. With some control, greed devoured all the useless crystals and left the ones John deemed useful. "You can praise me now," he said. "You should be ashamed of yourself if you can't do at least that much. Go to hell." Those meteoric glass crystals were taken to the side and put in a pool of crystal ether, a mix of the tears of kind extract and the Lorcan's tear solvent that John created in Cold Harbor to refine the materials that created the Elder Staff Pride. Take a hint. That process was repeated with other crystal colonies in the same cave until John decided to head out to the next level in the abyss. As the first level was a marshland from Argonia, the second was clearly the mountaintops of Skyrim with a horde of frost trolls. The third level was a thick forest with giants and saurigans resembling the nature of Valenwood. The fourth was a sea level. Sharks and sea serpents flooded the tunnel, and the space underwater was much bigger than above it. The fifth was a dwarven dungeon. The sixth was a battlefield between Nord-like people and elf-like giants. And the seventh was the inside of a castle overrun by orcs, goblins, and undead. Only after the cave that separates the seventh and the eighth did John find a clue to his quest. A crack in the wall of the cave, leading to a strange subdimension to the abyss. John walked in a space that felt completely different from the space of the abyss, a strange, alien, dark, fantasy-like corridor. Congratulations, you have reached a crack between the worlds. P4 Tray 0N. Goal, 6 extra. Pat Rayon. com/Eldokmezi, remove. PayPal, plus $10 equals extra. PayPal, me/Eldokmezi. Extras by votes, 5,000/8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. Chapter 445, Abyss 2. The crack between the worlds, you say. Indeed. So let me get this straight. This world is this but cheek, and that world is this but cheek, and then we have this crack between them. Please put your pants on. The point is the cosmic asshole is around, right? Actually, that would explain the smell in this place, but no, there are no cosmic assholes. What a shame. I used to call my boss a cosmic asshole in my past life. Very funny. As the two started exchanging insults and roasting one another, John kept scouting the place he is in. The theme of the area is a dark fantasy-like castle that reminded him of his time in Castle Fokihar. Long silent hallways, unlit candlesticks, darkened painting frames, broken furniture, and very gloomy corners. "Hey, Shadow, what is this place exactly?" John asked. "Now you are willing to listen? Don't get salty on me now. Fine, the cracks between the worlds are areas that connect the abyss of this world to the abysses of the other worlds. Otherworldly beings can access them, but can't use them to travel to other worlds. So, to say more correctly, it is the cafeteria where otherworlders meet up but can't follow one another to different worlds. Couldn't say it better myself. You mean I may run into beings from other worlds here? The possibility exists, but the chance is unimaginably rare. Remember, this is as far as you can get from Mundus. You won't receive any blessing in this place. Okay, this is that serious then. John heightened his senses and spread his passive detection. Oh, as he did so, he noticed something. The space and time around are stable. The crack between the worlds is a world of its own. It is more stable than the abyss, so you can think of it as a world that is floating on the sea of chaos alone. I see, wait. I have a very bad idea, John said as he retrieved the meteoric glass crystals that he collected along the way. He had a fair number of them as he harvested 7 abyss caves worth of meteoric glass. He held a bright blue crystal that shone brightly under the effect of the candlelight spell John uses and felt like a really expensive gemstone. What are you doing? Watch this. John used the crystal in one hand and started charging it with energy. This energy contained the law of space from the crack between the worlds in the specific coordinates John standing on. John used the same technique he used while trapping the starlight energy in Azura's star. Once he was done trapping the law of space in the crystal, he walked 20 meters back where he came from and stopped. Now, while simply supplying the crystal with magicka, John disappeared from his place and appeared in the place where he trapped the law of space 20 meters ahead. As he did so, the crystal turned to dust in his hand. This is sick. Nice idea. Indeed. With this, I can enter the abyss and directly come here. And wait, there's more. John had an even better idea. Azura told me that time is my only ally, meaning I can harness the power of the abyss the way I see fit using those crystals. You said that abyss is another synonym for time when it comes to the law of shadow magic, which means John headed all the way back to the crack in space and returned to the cave in the abyss. He used another crystal and started trapping the time energy from the abyss itself. Oh, so you're trapping the unstable time energy from the abyss because it is easier to digest. Indeed, John had a mad smile on his face while doing so. He activated his magicka, and something miraculous happened. His astral form separated from his physical form, and he became a golden ghost. He saw the events from just now happen in front of his eyes, but running backward. In his hand, the crystal was there, but it was also in an astral form. Once the time energy in the crystal ran out, John reverted back to his body, but, oh, so you're trapping the unstable time energy from the abyss because it is easier to digest. As he said so, the crystal turned to dust in his hand. What? Shadow halted. You were going to say that, right? John said. You bastard. You managed to slide back in time under my nose? Shadow's voice carried a hint of being impressed. Ha ha, this is crazy. Jumping back in time. Not even an archwizard can pull that one off without the help of a dozen artifacts and scrolls. Now John could do it by using the data he acquired from analyzing the dawn magic spell used by Darius in the final match of the Grand Champion. This spell that can trap pure energies into crystals is now called the Meteor Protocol, an expert-level spell inspired by the dawn magic that can trap energy and powers in meteoric glass. John repeated the process with more crystals and had different effects based on how he used them. If he threw them at the enemy, the space crystals would devour a part of it in a void orb that appears for a second, while the time crystals cause the target to go in stasis. The potential was limitless, but the crystals were not, so John had to keep most of them and continue his course. Still, the trip became 100 times safer with the existence of a method to jump back in time. Of course, using this method in stable dimensions like Mundus is much harder than the Abyss or the Crack of Worlds. Anyway, fun time was over. John returned to exploring the dark castle beyond the crack. The corridor was pretty damn long, and some places devoured the light of magic John used to see around. This eerie place would give anyone the creeps, so John kept an extra careful awareness. Finally, and on the turn of a corner, he found himself in front of a single door. Nefertiti, is the soul scent of Azura still coming from there? John asked. Yes. Okay, just when we find ourselves reincarnating in Dark Souls this time. Don't play me. Pushing the door, John found one single room. Seriously now? He was annoyed as he had to look somewhere else, but still Nefertiti walked in. At the center of the room, there was a table. On the table, there was a strange-looking box. And inside the box, she pointed. Should I open it? He asked. You can't. This box is bigger than this place. She said. Huh. John looked at the box and could hardly understand her until he started scanning the space around and the box. Holy shit. Couldn't help but swear. John noticed how large the box was. It was as large as a castle from the inside, but from the outside, it was compressed to the size of a box with complicated mechanisms to keep it locked and to keep anyone from seeing what's inside. Nice try. John smirked and cast Eye of Magicka. The spell that can expose the flow of magicka around the space was one of John's secret spells. Still, it didn't work as he thought it would work. Instead, he saw a fingerprint on a certain part of the box, as if it was highlighted by ultraviolet light. Wow! Gasping from surprise, John couldn't help but touch the fingerprint spot with his thumb. Crack, click, 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 click. Suddenly, and without warning, the box started moving on its own. It rotated around itself and made mechanical sounds. Then its lock appeared on the outside of the box with many lines of brass metal and nails separating some parts and connecting others. What is that thing? Is that Dwemer? John freaked out unintentionally. No, it is a tool from another world. Shadow replied. Another world? Why would something like that come here and imprison Azura's divine extension? Someone must have found it and put it to use. Many things from different worlds drift through space and time. This tool is similar to the cube of yours. Where did it originate from? A world called Erug, created by the magic of the Horned Dwarves. Erug is a fun place, but gradually losing its peace due to the discovery of gunpowder. You can imagine the rest. An advanced world with magic, eh? Sounds fun indeed. John replied. Still, this machine is very curious. Sadly, I can't take it back to Nirn. John didn't bother and pulled out the skeleton key to unlock the lock on the chest. Once that was done, the box opened more and showed a secret mechanism, one of those that are used with modern safes. The catatasker inside John was fully curious and swore to open this box no matter what. From a safe mechanism to secret maps mechanism, musical notes mechanism to star formation mechanism, John kept solving every riddle as the box grew bigger and became more complex with every turn. After some time, John arrived at the innermost deep part in the box. Once he solved the puzzle, a red gem appeared for him and stood across a stand. On that gem, there was a magical seal, and it was typical to the one used in Mundus. This is where things got interesting, as this seal can't be left unless by someone from Mundus, meaning that someone has solved it before John. The answer to that came earlier than he expected. There was a note signed by an M letter. Times. It was a pleasant encounter running into an otherworldly artifact during my trial in the abyss. Master Iacasis insisted to focus on my trail, collect a fair number of meteoric glass, and pass, but how can I resist such a curiosity? That idiot Venus is also keeping an eye on me. I think Master is the one who told him to do so. The fool wouldn't let me do my work in peace. Thankfully, I found this otherworldly artifact that I can't tell its name, but I'll call it the puzzle box from now on. For an item like that to drift between worlds, it is my fortunate indeed. This box can twist itself into various puzzles, as if something created by Sothasil or a Dwemer tonal architect. It can contain space and even trap parts of the rifts between worlds. The rest of this maze will be trapped by me, so Venus or any other Sigit can just run around like headless hens. I also kept the space of the original owner intact, so I can experience how the other worlds felt. Such a curious style indeed. No man or mare can create such elegance. Times. This was obviously a note left by the young Manimarco, who was annoyed by Venus Galerian and their masters, right, Master Iacasis. To think that Manimarco was the kind to enjoy puzzles. Well, let's just free the space, John said as he started decrypting the seal. After 10 minutes, the red gem started glowing and a ray of red light was shot from it. That light hit a wall in the room and created a door from that light. Second by second, the door became more real and the red gem finally broke to dust. Here we go. Taking the first step through the fancy wooden door, John halted his steps and opened his eyes wide. Wow! Followed by Nefertiti and Jax, who have no civil sense whatsoever. John had to ask them not to touch anything. The room looked quite the old-fashioned by Earth standards. A large wooden desk, a leather chair, a typewriter, a collection of books written in a foreign language, and many other things that gave the vibe of the 19th century. This is surely the space of the original owner Mannimarco kept intact. John looked around for a way to open the door to the next room, but he soon realized that the room is also another puzzle. Moreover, there were many engineering schematics lying around that John couldn't help but make copies from them. Now, to finish up things, John took out the skeleton key and became hell-bent on going forward. P4 tray 0N. Goal. 5/next. 6 extra. Pat Rayon. com/eldokmizi. Remove. PayPal. plus $10 equals extra. PayPal. me/eldokmizi. Extras by votes. 5,000/8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. Chapter 446, Abyss 3. An old office room, a desk with papers on it, a light bulb, a locked cabinet with a bunch of books, an old model typewriter, tarot cards, and a big gramophone. This image fits really perfectly with the wooden ground and the paintings on the wall, but all of a sudden it became awfully disturbed by the appearance of a hooded and cloaked warrior in full black armor, a small girl in a black gothic dress with cat ears, and a minotaur in an imperial soldier armor. "Don't touch a single thing," John said. Excited about what he just came across, John had that blaze in his eyes. He took out his gauntlets to not damage anything and carefully took a look around. The place was abundant with magicka, as if some expert had stayed here for a long time. The leather chair was comfortable and cozy, while the desk was neatly preserved with magic. Mannimarco has really taken care of this place. Not sure where to start, John used Eye of Magicka once again and managed to find out the first detail about this room. A few fingerprints were left here around on the cabinet on the other side of the room. John walked to it and tried to open it, but it was sealed. The skeleton key came in handy once again, and then there was a strange suitcase-like object. John took it out and studied it to find it a box camera, those old types of cameras with the shape of a box. He found the tri-legged base this camera stands on and stationed it on the top with a screw. After that, he carefully figured out how it works and installed a few lenses on it. With that, he could finally set the focus and look through the lens. With an excited look, John searched around the room by looking through the camera. Indeed, as he thought, there was something different in the room. The sights seen through the camera showed certain glows and colorful stains around the room. Figuring a pattern out of that led John to a new finding. Depending on where he stood in the room, worlds would appear based on how he looked at the patterns around. Many patterns were entangled, and John could see many letters, but the only word that was read was kingdom. Shouldn't a fella like Mannimarco pick some scary-ass words? John wondered. The only clue he has now was the word kingdom. Not sure what to do with that, John kept scanning the room normally until his eyes landed on the typewriter. He sat in front of the typewriter, figured out how to mount a paper in, and wrote kingdom. He was simply trying without much hope of finding a clue, but suddenly, the typewriter reacted and wrote on its own. Sun, moon, and stars form one heaven. As I looked up, I saw nothing but doom for my mortal self. I ran back to my sanctuary amid space and time, wishing I can halt this curse. What does any of this mean? Escaping mortality? Mannimarco is a lich king. Well, he is now an immortal chim. John dismissed the puzzle, understanding that it is one of Mannimarco's ramblings about himself when he was immortal. Still, it was a new clue. John scanned the place once again while reciting the puzzle until he saw the tarot cards on the side of the desk. There were a number of them, but reading what the typewriter wrote, John concluded it to 3 cards: Heaven, Doom, and Sanctuary. Holding the cards together in one hand caused a sudden flash in the room. The cards returned to where they were, and everything became silent. What was that? Jax freaked out. Do not move or touch anything. You may activate a trap. Yes. Looking around, John used the camera once again to see through the room. Indeed, some patterns disappeared and a new word emerged. John repeated the same with the typewriter and got another puzzle. It wasn't simple this time, as some cards were hidden across the room. John abused the skeleton key to get to the hidden cards and kept advancing the puzzles one by one until he got 4 words. Kingdom of the Sun. As he looked for the 5th, he found the patterns leading to a certain place where some gramophone records were being kept. The language on them was foreign to him, but he managed to get the record he wanted by guessing from the pictures on the covers. Kingdom of the Sun. Strong name. John took the record to the gramophone, mounted it, then let it play. National anthem-like music was played from the gramophone. Jackson and Nefertiti made a fuss about the object, but John shut them up and kept listening. As the song went on, it came to a place where it stopped. John scanned the gramophone to find a strange object that came out of nowhere, blocking the record from playing. Taking it out, he recognized it as a lens for the camera. This was a new clue indeed. From it, he mounted the lens on the camera and looked around with. There, he saw a strange object in the room. A pattern, but it was floating rather than being painted on the wall. John looked at it from different angles until he found the perfect view of the pattern. Fucking hell, just good grief. Realizing that he was lost in solving the puzzle, John's head returned back from the excitement and faced reality. That pattern was the symbol of the worm cult. From there, the box camera reacted to the pattern, and from it, a red ray of light was shot. Whoa! John made sure to stay clear from that. The ray of light hit the wall behind the pattern, and all of a sudden, a door formed. Not weird at all. The other two realized that they finally are going to leave this strange place. They followed John as he opened the door, and, "Come on," John said in frustration. In front of him was no hallway or magic portal or anything familiar, just a view to a cloudy, bleak sky. Human looked down. John followed where Nefertiti was pointing, and an amazed look appeared on his face. He looked out through the door hung in the sky, only to find it a door hung in a long tower made of black stone. To add more to the fun, the space downstairs was akin to a ruined city, a realm dragged into the sea of chaos. Now that's something to behold. In Nordic, please, nothing to concern yourself with. Think of it as a realm of oblivion. Whatever. Nefertiti, is Azura's soul sent nearby? Down there. She pointed. John nodded and levitated down, using the boots of the apostle, through the long tower until he reached the ground undetected. Through the short trip, he noticed many strange undead all over the place. They were mostly shambles and zombies. Nothing necromancers would really use unless to keep their premium troops saved up. John reached the ground and found some ruined walls to take as cover. He then teleported Nefertiti and Jax near him. "Listen, you two. We may have infiltrated without anyone noticing, but as soon as we run into those undead roaming around, someone or something will come for sure. We are in their inner sanctum now," he said. "Human, you are so demanding. Lots of fish. But it's okay. Good. You can blend in the shadows and recon the area. Meet me back here in 2 minutes," he said, and Nefertiti didn't disagree. "Jax." "Yes, Chief. Boss. How come you are not asking questions all this time during the journey?" John asked. "When I was at the arena, some human told me that Hammerfell is a very confusing place. I guess it's all expected," Jax said. John and Nefertiti had the same look on their faces as the Minotaur said so. "Human, this Minotaur still thinks he is in Hammerfell," Nefertiti said via telepathy. "Let's keep it that way," John replied. "Yes, indeed. Hammerfell is truly mysterious. Listen, I know Minotaurs have a great sense of direction, but I want you to stay here and not make a sound. You are too large to sneak around." "Yes," John sighed in relief. If this Minotaur found out he is not in his world anymore, things will get ridiculous. Nefertiti slid into the shadows, and John covered himself in greed and ventured the other way. If someone had to ask him how this place looked like, he would say it looks like the Soul Cairn, except for the overall theme color being dusty gray instead of gloomy blue. All in all, it was a wasteland, broken ruins, and undead. John didn't detect anything worth detecting in his area of the search, so he switched to reading the law of space in this place. It wasn't much different from the normal space in this rift between worlds, but John noticed a lot of movement. It seemed this place was connected to Mundus through a series of conjuration spells. Someone is crafty enough to conjure undead from this realm. Only one answer came to mind. The Worm Cult. Unlike the Soul Cairn, which is a place hard to reach for ordinary necromancers, other necromancers tend to contact certain realms of oblivion that house undead. The reason why this method was inferior to contacting the Soul Cairn was because of the quality of the undead being greatly different from the undead that are being maintained by the incredible beings known as the Ideal Masters who rule over the Soul Cairn. The Ideal Masters create high-quality undead, which are the Bone Man, Mist Man, and the Wraithman to aid necromancers with. Sometimes the Ideal Masters ask for black souls in exchange for more undead. Someone with John's ability is pretty much able to summon a large number, which is over 300 by the brute force of his magicka, but if he made a deal with the Ideal Masters, he may multiply this number by threefolds, gaining the ability to conjure 1,000 undead on his own. The problem with making deals with the Ideal Masters is because of how it ends. Those who make such dumb deals always end up swallowed by the Ideal Masters in the end. Even their name rhymes with Innocent Insurance Company or Kind Loan Sharks. For that reason, necromancers tend to find special realms with a good quality of undead. Capable necromancers can even isolate a small pocket realm and fill it with undead from all across Oblivion. John suspected this realm to be the case, and he was right on the mark. Human, you may need to see this. Hearing Nefertiti's voice in his head, John returned as fast as he could to the meeting spot. What is it? Nefertiti led him to a large place that seemed like a ruined city. In there, John could feel a ton of presences. Life signals, undeath signals, Daedric signals. There was a strange festival going behind the walls of that city. But the most curious thing John felt was the familiar sensation of Azura's presence. It was clear where to go now. John, Nefertiti, and Jax blended in the surroundings and found a good place to approach the ruined city from. As they had a good view, they saw large banners for the Worm Cult all over the place. I see. The question is, why would the Worm Cult travel to the edge of the world to establish a realm of necromancy? John murmured. 2 reasons. Shadow popped up again. I am listening. One is to stay clear from the Daedric princes. Mannimarco may be an immortal chim, but he is no match for a real Daedra, and his cult's reserve of undead will be too vulnerable to remain in his own realm. And the second reason, it may be highly unlikely, but if John contacted humans from other universes and made them his followers, he will escape the Orbis itself. Being a deity worshipping across other universes means you can simply walk freely between the two and have vast power. Well, that's a problem. Not really. It is possible in theory, but no one bothered doing it. Just focus at the labor at hand. John nodded and returned to stealth. This time he has to go through the secret metropolis of the Worm Cult. P4 Tray 0N. Goal. 5 extra / next 6. Pat Rayon. Com / Eldok Meezy. Remove. PayPal. Plus $10 equals extra. PayPal. Me / Eldok Meezy. Extras by votes. 5,000 / 8,000. Discord. GG/GKCKVA7S. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.